All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 120. Thank you guys so much for being here with me and waiting patiently as the intro credits roll. Some of you got a little surprise there, an unexpected one. I actually forgot to set the I forgot to set the intro credits to loop. And so, I was just sitting there looking at my screen and I noticed my chair popped up. I was trying to get a drink to get ready and I'm like, uh-oh. But it could have been much worse, right? It definitely could have been much worse. You're saying MBG looking strong. Thank you, man. I appreciate that compliment. I have been working out a lot lately, so I appreciate that. And see somebody else saying, Seven City, the leak was right. He has a blue t-shirt. Yeah, that was pretty funny, though. I was thinking about just leaving it there, but I feel like people would have been very confused. Maybe that could have worked for me, though, rather than against me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. That one guy's name, that one guy's channel named Quinn's Harmonies Beheld Service Entertainment. That name is so long, it like straight up comes up into the middle of my screen. I didn't foresee that, but yeah, I have a little bit of a new setup here going on. So let's see. Let's get some things squared away here. Under Armour t-shirt, good gym wear. Yeah, this is one of my favorite shirts. I always like wearing this shirt. I feel like everybody kind of has, those pieces of clothing that you kind of look forward to wearing. It just feels different. It feels better than like the other clothing you may own for one reason or another. That's kind of how I feel about this shirt. Let me bring up my topics and everything else here. Let me make sure it actually saved. Oh, and it's not responding. We seem to be having some slight technical difficulties today. Hopefully, they'll sort themselves out. There we go. Okay, yeah, so yeah, episode 120 of Press X Podcast. I want to give you guys a bit of a preface, let you guys know some of the topics we're going to be discussing over the course of this podcast. So let's see. First, I'm going to be talking about PlayStation Plus Premium, and I'm going to be talking about God of War, the original God of War for PlayStation 2, well, actually for PS3, the remastered version, because I did finally subscribe to PlayStation Plus Premium. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. I'm going to talk about what my experience with it has been like. I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I played of God of War so far. This is me starting my Road to Ragnarok series. And I'm also going to give you my thoughts on streaming a game for the first time. This is actually my first experience ever playing a game through cloud streaming. And considering my stance on cloud streaming has always been I'm against it, you guys might want to hear my thoughts on that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Sony and Square Enix because more things seem to be happening, more rumblings of Sony preparing to do something of significance with Square Enix. William, you're saying MBG review of Yuffie DLC. So I'm not going to do a standalone review of the Yuffie DLC, and actually this would be a great time to plug a couple of things before I continue to run down the topics of the day. First and foremost, a huge shout out to my channel members. I'm going to shout them out in just a minute. I currently have my Final Fantasy VII Remake review out for channel members. As I said, a benefit that all channel members will get is exclusive early access to content. And this is one of one of those pieces of content that I wanted to be sure to give out early for channel members. But don't worry, if you're not a channel member, no pressure. This will be released publicly as well. A lot of people have been asking me to try to start, doing more reviews, game reviews, and talking more about games. And that's something I definitely want to do more here on the channel. And so I'm starting with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I have my full review of the game. It's just a general, it's a pretty laid back review, I guess is the way I could frame it, where, I'm not trying to be too intricate about it because I just don't really like reviewing things that way. Just being a little bit more loose, kind of from the hip, and just giving my general thoughts, which just kind of naturally comes to me. And I did talk a little bit about the Yuffie DLC. Are you saying, will you discuss the Yuffie DLC today, not full review? Yeah, I probably could do that. Yeah, probably a little bit later on in the stream because I did complete it. So, and to be fair, I didn't really give my thoughts extensively on the Yuffie DLC in the review. So that's something we can definitely do. But a couple of other things, as I said, becoming a channel member, I'm hoping to add even more perks. I don't have an ETA on that, but just keep an eye out. If you're somebody who is currently a channel member or considering becoming one, keep an eye on that. You'll see some more channel perks pop up over time. Other ways you can help support the channel, obviously, as I always tell you guys, just watching the content, you being here, watching the stream, if you watch the stream later, watching my videos, watching a couple of ads occasionally that may appeal to you. These things really help me out. They help the channel out. If you want to go above and beyond, other than becoming a channel member, donating super chats during my streams, I always say it's the backbone of the channel. I literally couldn't do what I do here without you guys. So feel free to donate a super chat if you're interested in, kind of going the extra mile there. And yeah, also just sharing the content out. If you feel like you have some friends or some family members or just anybody you may know that, may want to be a part of this community and is interested in the content or may be interested in the content I create, feel free to share it out. Michael Lynch, thank you for the 5, my friend. You're saying, so I'm playing Guardians of the Galaxy and it's pretty awesome. I spent the first 45 minutes just listening to music of the soundtrack. Well, I'm glad to hear that, man. I wonder if you're playing it through PlayStation Plus Extra or if you bought the game, but it's funny because a game like Guardians of the Galaxy was not on my radar whatsoever. I really had no interest in it. When I saw the initial trailers and the gameplay, it just didn't appeal to me, right? And I do like the Guardians of the Galaxy, but something about the game just didn't appeal to me. And people told me, I think it was in January of this year or maybe December of last year, but they were like, yo, MBG, this game's on sale for half off, $30. If you're interested, now would be the time to purchase it. So I bought a copy and I played it, and I was actually very surprised at just how good Guardians of the Galaxy was. The thing I like most about it is it's a no-frills, solid, single-player experience. BGUK, you're saying, MBG, my name is not on your channel member list. Is it not? I did update it. Unless something went horribly wrong. You are BGUK 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You should be the 9th name when it starts again. So look out for that, man. Hopefully it's just maybe you missed it because I usually do comb through this very thoroughly. And, I am human. I do make mistakes occasionally. I may. There is the chance that I could have somehow missed your name, but see, your name is on my list that I type out, so I don't know why it wouldn't be there. So let me know. We'll keep an eye on that. And if it isn't there, BGUK, I apologize. Again, that's very strange to me because I comb through this list very thoroughly, and I'm always surprised when I occasionally see members say, "Oh, my name's not there, man. What happened?" So yeah, hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. We'll come back to that though. The Caped Crusader, thank you for the $10, my friend. You're saying, MBG, in regards to the boom in digital sales, it's technological innovation. Remember when floppy disks slowly replaced thumb drives, or when cassettes replaced CDs. We have to adapt to the times. Yes, I hear you, Caped Crusader. I hear you. And real quick, I see Lieutenant Shu saying, I saw BGUK's name on the list. Okay, hopefully it is there, man. Hopefully I didn't miss it. That would definitely make me feel better. I'm sure it'd make BGUK feel better too. Saying MBG, greetings from the Dominion Republic. What's going on, man? Not saying your name. Not saying your name, because I always mess it up. Damon, where did I get my hat? I'm going to be honest, I forget where I bought this hat. I bought so many hats I can't remember. I apologize, man. Yeah, I would tell you if I knew, if I could remember. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know. But Cape Crusader, in regards to your super chat, yeah, we talked yesterday in a video about how Sony announced that 79% of their sales this past fiscal quarter, were digital. And, you know, I'm somebody who always likes to buy games physically when I have, you know, the ability to do so. I'm not going to make it sound like I don't buy any games digitally. That's not the case at all. I do buy some games on occasion digitally. But more often than not, I go for physical. Like, I do have a pretty decent sized physical PS5 games collection, but it does really start to make me feel like, am I fighting the inevitable here? You know, am I fighting the inevitable? Is this really going to happen? See, my big concern, and the only thing I actually care about right now, is I don't care if the majority of people want to buy their games digitally. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, everybody is free to make their own choices, and I actually do understand the convenience. But it's what Bucket Feed is saying. Will the PlayStation 6 have a disc drive? That's what concerns me. That's why I do get a little bit nervous when I see the digital to physical ratio continue to climb, because I don't want to see a situation. And I honestly think, I could be wrong here, but I do believe that even most people who prefer digital wouldn't want to see this happen, where I don't want to see Sony and Microsoft remove the option of being able to buy a console with a disc drive and buy your games physically, and, you know, to have that physical disc. I don't want to see that become the future, because I just don't think that's ideal. You know, I feel like when you look at other forms of media, like I said in my video yesterday, people still buy CDs. You know, it may not seem like it, and they may be like the 1 or 2% at this point, but people do buy CDs. People buy vinyl. Vinyl is, like, you know, kind of made a comeback, right? So it would just be extremely disappointing to see the gaming industry just basically come together and say, we're not doing physical anymore. I think that would be insanity. It would be, because you could make an argument for the need for some physical games, at the very least. You know, with how prevalent streaming music, movies, and games are, you know, it's not like you're streaming gigabytes of data, right? But with people who don't have good internet, having to download gigabytes, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, sometimes 100 gigabytes, right? Being able to have that on a disc, there's an argument there. So again, like, what this ultimately comes down to for me is the concern whether or not with the next generation, because I do believe firmly that there will be another generation of consoles, will there be a disc drive? I hope there is. It would be shocking to me, and I think to pretty much the entire gaming community. And I think there would be massive backlash if there wasn't a disc drive. There has to be that option. You know, even if we see it reversed with the PlayStation 6, where the majority of PlayStation 6 units are digital and they produce less disc drive units, but still, I want to see that option always be there. I can kind of see a future, maybe like with the PlayStation 7 or the PlayStation 8. If that's when the disc drive is removed, okay, sure. But I do agree with you, the Caped Crusader. This is, I think, the natural progression to a degree, and we are seeing that. I don't think there's any denial there. And I do admit that it is nice sometimes to have digital games because, in a way, they do offer a convenience that physical games don't. But I think there's pros and cons to both, and I don't necessarily fault anybody for choosing to go digital or choosing to go physical. Again, if there's anything that I'm advocating for in the long run, it's just having that option. I think we can all agree that having options is a good thing. So thank you for that, Cape Crusader. Danny Smith, welcome to the channel. You're becoming a channel member. Welcome as a member. Choosing to become a member on the Greatness Awaits tier. I really appreciate that, man. Appreciate the direct support. So shout out to you, Danny Smith. And I'm going to do a shout out to my channel members in just a moment here. PlayStation Fan says, Loki is killing Kratos and after gameplay. Okay, so I guess you're saying that Loki is going to kill Kratos and then after that you're going to play as Loki. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that'd be very surprising. That would certainly be shocking. I don't think that's going to happen. It's a possibility though. And PlayStation Fan, you're saying PlayStation Showcase September 24th. I haven't heard anything about a PlayStation Showcase. You guys know I'm not an insider, and I did have one source at one point, but they turned out to not necessarily be 100% wrong, but what I kind of realized is that no one actually knows. No one knows. What I've learned when it comes to Sony and their events and their showcases is that the reason why you don't hear people who would be considered very reliable insiders, people who get things correct, the reason why you don't hear them coming out and giving specific dates is because there is no specific date. There is no specific date. Sony, I think, has a general idea of the date they're targeting, but it could shift at any point. So I believe, some people have been saying that they're hearing that August is when we might get some type of an event or showcase. And that's another thing as well. Something else you'll notice with a lot of people who seemingly have sources is they can never really identify, like, is it a state of play? Is it a showcase? Is it a state of play for a single game? These are all very different things, and they have a big impact on how the PlayStation community is going to respond to them. For example, if Sony comes out this month and says, we have a state of play, the PlayStation community is going to react very differently to that than if Sony comes out and says, we're doing a showcase this month. So, it's just, at some point you have to ask yourself, how come nobody seems to know, no matter how well connected they are, how come nobody can give us a specific date with a specific day, and they seemingly can't tell us if it's actually a showcase or state of play or something else? It's because they don't know. And it's because I don't think Sony has these things set in stone. I think they're always fluctuating. And I think that might be a strategic thing. They might do that purposely to kind of, not only be flexible, but we have seen Sony delay their showcases and their dates sometimes by a couple days when need be. So, September 24th, it seems a bit late for me. I feel like that's too late in the month. So I think if we are going to get a showcase from PlayStation, it will come earlier in the month. Josh, you're saying Deviation Games announced they're opening a studio a year and a half ago and already in mocap. The studio looks like it should be called PlayStationville. Yeah, so I agree with you, Josh. I'm kind of at a point here where I'm just waiting for the day we hear that Sony has officially acquired Deviation Games as a first-party studio, because when you look inside of their studio, it's decked out with PlayStation DualSenses on the walls, and they just have a very PlayStation aesthetic. And yeah, the fact that their funding from Sony was so great that apparently, they opened a second studio in Canada, right? That's impressive. That's impressive. So in order for Sony to be giving them so much funding, at least I'm assuming that's where the funding is coming from. You have to imagine Sony's liking what they're seeing so far. So we'll see. I'm really excited to see what Deviation Games is working on. I mean, I don't want to get overly excited because they're a brand new studio, and I mean, for all we know, the first thing they show could be disappointing. But I'm cautiously optimistic, but I am leaning more towards optimism simply because there's a lot of talent there and a lot of Treyarch talent, and I've always enjoyed Call of Duty, you know, and I've always specifically enjoyed Treyarch's Call of Duties. So to see that talent that's responsible for those Treyarch single player experiences with Frank Woods and Mason and the Black Ops series and the multiplayer side of it, as well as the zombie side of it, yeah, I think Deviation Games has a lot of potential. So we'll see what ends up going on there. SC Uper Gaming, you're saying hatsstoreworld.com has it. Okay, that's probably where I got it then. That's the thing, is sometimes when I am shopping for hats online, you know, I don't even really, I mean, of course I pay some attention to where I'm buying it from to make sure it's legitimate, but there's so many different places where you can buy stuff like this that I end up just kind of forgetting. The only place I really remember is like PlayStation Gear Store, because that's the official store. But it's interesting because sometimes Sony license out they license out the PlayStation brand and the logo for third parties to kind of make stuff like this, and then Sony will kind of do something different for their own official store. But that's probably where I got it from. And you see the Caped Crusader once again. You're saying last physical game I bought was Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'm sure you're not the only one, Caped Crusader. Something I did notice with that video I put out yesterday is that a lot of people were saying that they've fully switched over to digital. And when you look at a statistic like 79% of people buying their games digitally on PlayStation, it's pretty clear that more and more people are doing it. I'm going to be honest. I've thought about it. I have thought about it, you know, and the only reason I've thought about it is because I'm just kind of in this frame of mind where I feel like if there isn't going to be physical discs in the future for like the PlayStation 6 and beyond, maybe I should just embrace digital now and get it over with, right? Rather than having to wait until I'm completely forced. But then again, it's like, I feel like that wouldn't help what I'm advocating for, you know what I mean? Because if I'm advocating for options, then I should probably, you know, utilize those options. So that's why, like, I would recommend to anybody, and this is just a recommendation, I'm not saying you need to do this, I just think it would help occasionally buy a physical game. Just occasionally. Just like I occasionally buy a digital game. I think you should try not to go 100% in either direction, because I feel like that will actively send the signal to Sony that, you know, when they see data, we're like, you know, X amount of people are buying their games digitally, but they are also occasionally buying a physical game here and there. That could be the difference maker in the long run, right? You have to imagine that kind of accounts for that 21% to a certain degree. So that would be my recommendation. I see Game Skyjumper saying, hell no, I want to own my game. You can't take away my ability to play / download if the internet is down. That's how I feel about it too, man. Saying Space Gambler Jr. saying, MBG, those are pandemic numbers. Yeah, I guess they are, and we do have to take that into account as well. And we'll see, right? Like, going forward with future earnings reports that Sony puts out, we'll see how this digital to physical ratio fluctuates and how it changes. And I'll report on that, and we'll talk about it. I guess what I'm wondering at this point is if it's going to start inching up to 85%. That would be interesting. If we start to see like a steady climb, that would be fascinating to me. Because if that's true that these are pandemic numbers and that's kind of influenced the surge in digital sales, then you would imagine now that the pandemic officially over? I don't know. I haven't been paying attention. It feels like it is. I'm assuming it is. Things seem to be relatively back to normal, whatever that is in 2022. But if that's true, then you would imagine things would start to even out a little bit, right? So. You guys are saying no, it's not over. Yeah, I don't pay attention to the news. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't pay, I'm going to be honest, like I don't pay attention to any of that because I don't know that it really matters too much, you know? I've seen when it comes to the news and the way people talk about things, it's like one day it's this and the next it's that. And then, oh, we're back to this. And then, oh, now we're back to that. And it's like, the news is kind of a joke, you know? So I just don't really pay attention. And honestly, I'm going to be real with you guys. I feel like I'm better for it. I've been trying to... I'm going to go on a little side quest here for a second before I finish reading some of these super chats. I've been kind of actively reducing the noise in my life. And I'm really starting to feel the benefits of that. You know, I'm not going to really get into too much detail here, but I guess all I'm saying is I recommend to people, try to reduce some of the excess noise that you may be allowing into your life because, and by noise, I'm talking about just, you know, in 2022, in today's day and age, it just feels like you can't go anywhere. You can't look left, you can't look right, you can't look up, you can't look down without there being something that it's trying to be shoved in front of your face to distract you, to influence you, to tell you how to think, to tell you how to feel negative, to feel overly positive, just pulling you in all these different directions. And, you know, I think that just actively trying to reduce some of the noise in your life, it's really when you get to that, you get that quiet, right? That quiet, that peace, that calmness, you can really start to gain some clarity. That's what I've found. So I just, you know, recommend that to Mario says, did you buy the new Sony headphones? Reduced noise. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, man. I've been walking around with noise canceling headphones and I'm not actually listening to anything. I'm drowning out every That's a bit literal, obviously, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. Anyway, continuing on here, I want to try to make sure things flow in a I want to try to improve the pacing of the podcast a little bit. Ethan, thank you, my friend. You're saying, I just got a 4K OLED TV and it adds too much to the PS5. I'm assuming you meant to say so much because saying it adds too much almost sounds like it's too much to deal with. Yeah, man, OLED is the real deal for sure. And I mean, the only complaint that I've seen with OLED, and it's a pretty minor complaint, but some people believe that OLED, it like doesn't get as bright, but it also depends on which OLED TV you're using. And also they do have settings within OLED TVs where you can increase the gamma. I know that there are TVs where you can kind of increase the contrast. I'm not a big fan of increasing the contrast overly because I kind of don't like the look when the contrast is up all the way or enhanced, as they call it, where it creates just a weird, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's not pleasing to the eye, in my opinion. And then also there's concerns with like burn-in, but if I'm not mistaken, in 2022, if you're buying like a newer OLED model, burn-in isn't really a thing anymore that you have to worry about. But yeah, there's no denying that with OLED, there are two, in my opinion, there are like two major benefits with OLED. The first is the most obvious, where you get true black, right? You get that true black, and it has just such a natural look to it that LED screens are, I'm not familiar with QLED, I think it's what it's called, but that true black makes a big difference. And the other advantage, believe it or not, specifically with gaming with OLED, is the input lag. Like, because it's OLED, there's like virtually zero input lag and everything's very instantaneous. So, but let's see. I'm glad you're enjoying your OLED, man. Rice pudding. It's rice pudding. What a name. What a name. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Greatness Awaits. Thank you for becoming a member. Thank you. And for those who are unaware, I believe you can gift memberships now as well. I believe Space Gambler Jr., correct me if I'm wrong, but was it you? Was it you that gifted, I think, a couple of memberships my last stream? I think it was you. And that's really cool, too. That's another way you guys can help me out. But thank you. I really appreciate it, man. Welcome. Rice pudding. Actually, I'm a big fan of rice pudding. I am. I feel like that's kind of like an old man. It's like an old person dessert. But I'm telling you, man, you get some Cozy Shack rice pudding, a little bit of cinnamon, just a little bit, not too much. That's great, dude. Great stuff. And it's funny because I feel like I recently discovered that. When I was a kid, I used to eat rice pudding. MBG, you're confusing input lag with pixel reaction time, which is also why 30 FPS is pretty horrible on OLEDs because it is too fast. You're right. I am confusing the two. I guess that's just the terminology I'm so used to using, but yeah. Oh, what is going on with the chat here? But yeah, just GTA Rice City. I don't think that name would fly, man. I don't think that name would fly at all. But yeah, I used to eat rice kidding. Now you guys are getting me all flustered. I used to eat rice pudding when I was a kid, and I like didn't eat it for many, many years. And just like a couple years ago, I think my wife just like bought it for me or something, or somebody brought it over, and I was like, oh my God, like this is nostalgic, but also just delicious. Like I need this in my life again. So now I'm a fan of rice pudding once again. I bet you rice pudding, the individual here, was not anticipating that MBG would suddenly be talking about rice pudding thanks to his name. But here we are. All right, let's see. Caped Crusader, again, you're saying, I've been enjoying Tony Hawk's Pro Skater thanks to the PlayStation monthly games. And man, so many PS2 flashbacks. Such a fun game. Yeah, dude, I bought Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered or remake, whatever they call it. I bought it for the PS4, and I never felt inclined to get the upgrade because Activision wanted to charge $10, which I didn't really care too much about, but I had already kind of got my fill of the game. But when I did play it, man, phenomenal. You know, it's actually very sad. It's actually very, very sad that Vicarious Visions, they are the studio under Activision that remade Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. And for anybody who's played this, I think we can all agree they did a phenomenal job. I mean, this was like a Blue Point Games level remaster or remake. And it's a phenomenal package. And what did Activision do? Activision said, oh, you want to remake and remaster, whatever it is. I'm going to call it a remake. It feels more like a remake, like the quality of it. You want to remake Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4? Just like you did 1 and 2? You guys did a phenomenal job? And you should absolutely do it? Nah, we're going to tell you no. We're going to shut that down. And instead, Vicarious Visions, the studio that remastered these games and did a phenomenal job, they're now a Call of Duty studio. And we'll talk about that later. Because we are going to talk more about Call of Duty. And that, to me, that's very sad. That's very, very sad because I loved those games, man. And they did such a good job. And to think we could have continued to get them, right? We could have maybe even at some point got like a Tony Hawk's Underground remaster or remake. But it's never going to happen. I mean, I don't want to say it's never going to happen, but the chances of it happening anytime remotely soon are pretty much down the drain. Astro, you're saying it was Tony Hawk's call? I don't think so, dude. That doesn't sound right to me. MBG, they became a part of Blizzard, not Call of Duty. You might be right about that. Actually, I want to check real quick. I just want to check, make sure I have everything straight here. Oh, yep, you're right. They became a part of Blizzard. My bad. Well, that's the thing is so many studios have been folded. So many studios have been folded into yeah. Yeah, they're a Blizzard studio now. But so many studios have been at Activision have been folded into being Call of Duty support studios. I kind of figured that they were no different. So I guess it's a little bit better, but still, like, I just don't get it, man. I don't get why you wouldn't let them remaster 3 and 4. It is what it is. It's a little sad, but at least we can still enjoy 1 and 2. It's actually a little bit painful, though, right? Like, seeing how well they did with Tony Hawk 1 and 2 and just knowing that, well, they're never going to touch it again, even though they did such an amazing job. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. Zanarkan Blitzer, thank you so much for the generous donation, my friend. You're saying, remember they said that digital games would be cheaper at RRP compared to physical games. Look how that turned out. God of War Ragnarok is $125 at digital and physical versions, yet retailers have physical for $100. Physical copy pre-ordered. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is why I think we always need to make sure that we're supporting physical to a certain degree, because the day when physical games no longer exist and it's no longer an option in video games and the only way you can buy games is digitally, you're not going to really see price drops pretty much ever, or very rarely. And you are going to be at the mercy of the video game publisher, and the removal of the middleman will make it just so much easier for the video game publisher to ultimately dictate how much you're going to pay, no matter how long the game's been out, no matter... I mean, technically, the publisher still does have control over that, but it's just that you won't have the ability. Like, right now, you have the ability, if you were to go on the PlayStation Store and you want to buy, let's see, I would say Gran Turismo 7 or Horizon Forbidden West, but they are actually currently on sale. But let's just say, like, a month ago before they went on sale, the only way you could buy a game like Horizon or GT7 was $70 digitally, right? There's a real, like, you have the ability through the power of the internet, whether it's through maybe Amazon is doing a sale. If it's not Amazon, you could maybe find a seller, like a private seller, eBay, just essentially what I'm trying to say is the option is there where if you search hard enough, you could probably find it, somebody selling Horizon for like 30 or 40 bucks, and this is a thing you can do. And if physical media is like just not a thing anymore, then that's not going to exist. And I know that there are digital sales all the time. That's true. There are digital sales all the time. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you think about why there are digital sales, it's probably also because of physical games, right? Because they probably do have to try to compete with these other markets and these other places where the games are constantly and always on sale. That's my assumption, but I don't know. I just get a really bad feeling. I'm not fear mongering, but I just think it's likely that Sony, Microsoft, other publishers, they absolutely would love if we were in a digital only world, because they ultimately have more control and there are less options. And unfortunately, when it comes to business, when it comes to these companies and the way they operate, having more control, having less options, this is exactly what they want. So we don't always want that to be the case. We don't. So yeah, Zanarkan Blitzer, absolutely can't fault you for saying forget digital. I'm going physical. All right, let me see. Josh, you're saying Deviation games may only be 1 to 2 years out. Crazy. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Apparently they are making very good progress, so I wouldn't be shocked. It would be a nice surprise, but I wouldn't be like completely caught off guard if we see Deviation Games, their title, shown off this year for the first time. Again, this is assuming that Sony's having some type of showcase. I could see it maybe making its debut there. That would be very cool. That would be very cool. I really want to see this game because I feel like this could be a big deal depending on how it pans out. Lyro, you're saying, is Stray the new Knack? I don't think so. I mean, I say that because I feel like Knack kind of has this, I don't know, maybe it is the new Knack. I feel like Knack is kind of in that middle space where it's like some people actually like it and thought Knack was a good game, but it's also just kind of a joke, you know? It's just a running joke. I feel like people aren't really joking around about Stray. I feel like Stray has actually been more like, wow, like this game's really good. But then again, you know, people are doing some crazy stuff with mods with that game. Like I think I saw somebody literally turned the cat into CJ from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Let that sink in for a second. Like somebody actually modded the game to the degree where, and when I say the cat was CJ, I don't mean it's literally CJ like walking around. Like, no, it was like CJ in cat form. Yeah, pretty weird stuff. Pretty funny. But no, I think Knack is still, it's still just kind of in a league of its own. I do. All right, let me see here. Yeah, Knack has history. Yeah, Knack is, I don't think anything could usurp Knack. Maybe Knack 3. I think Knack is the only thing that can be the new Knack in the form of Knack 3. Hopefully that's what Mark Cerny's working on over there at Haven Studio. Could you imagine? All right, let's see. Drive by Joe, you're saying Goya rice pudding for the real shit. I don't know. Is it? I don't know if that's I'm assuming that's a brand. Because if it is, I'll have to try it. Maybe it's not a brand, but I'll look into it. Now I'm gonna have to enter the world of rice pudding. I'm gonna have to get deeper. I'm gonna have to get Goya's. That's what I thought. Goya it sounds like a brand to me. Like, I feel like I've heard that a few times. I probably, I probably have it in my kitchen. I don't even know it. Goya rice pudding. I wonder if I've had it before. I think I've always just kind of stuck with a Cozy Shack. But I'll give it a try, man. Spanish brand, yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Have to compare them. Have to do a taste test. Comparison. I'll do it live on stream. All right, let's see. Trinity of the Phoenix, you're saying not reaction, response time. Also, QD OLED goated. Okay. Yeah. Response time. That makes more sense. QD OLED. What's the difference? Hickzock, you're saying OLED is amazing when you play HDR at night. Yeah, I've noticed that. Even during the day, like if you're playing, you kind of have to close some of your curtains, or quantum dot, that's what it stands for. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about quantum dot. I'd have to look into that. Okay, Black Manta 1989, a member for 21 months. Thank you. You're saying, this is the reason I buy all of my fighting games physically. I learned my lesson with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I'll buy God of War Ragnarok and other AAA Sony exclusives on disc, though. Haha. Yeah, I mean, dude, like, that's the thing, is I don't think there... I would be surprised if there was somebody who literally has not bought a single digital game. That would be surprising to me, because I mean, even the most diehard, physical for life gamer, I feel like at this point in time, if you're playing on a modern console, you've probably purchased at least one thing digitally, right? So I think it's good to have a mix. Okay, guys. I'm running a little bit behind. It's okay. It's okay. I think we've been having some good conversation so far. Do me a big favor. Hit the like button for me. Doing so helps the stream. It helps with YouTube's algorithm and kind of helps push the podcast in front of new viewers so we can continue to grow the awesome community we have here. So hit that like button for me. I didn't do my member shout out, so I'm going to do that, and then we're going to dive into the first topic. Okay, so we have the Play Has No Limits Plus member tier. So big shout out to Junior Jackson, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, RU46 N2 Ray, Whiskey Gaming, Pragmaticat, Hidden Leaf 2 Taka, Nakamichi, D Luffy, and Big Norman 0518. Thank you guys. These are individuals who are members of the highest tier and going above and beyond. Really appreciate it. And then we have the Play Has No Limits. This is the second highest tier. Big shout out to Rune Gasoden, Space Gambler Jr., Michael McCann, Lady K, Black Waifus, Kevin Kahan, John Renzi, Zenarkan Blitzer, JD TV, Sir Speaks a Lot, Ashorty Faye, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, and Brandon Chad Perez. Again, can't thank you guys enough for the monthly support. So with that out of the way, we are going to dive into the first topic of the podcast, where I want to talk to you about my experience with PlayStation Plus Premium and also my thoughts on the first God of War. Now, many of you were surprised to learn about 2 weeks ago that I did not play Call of Duty. I don't know why I just said Call. I just read somebody saying Call of Duty and I said Call of Duty. I actually have played Call of Duty 1 through 3. Or did it? No, I never played Call of Duty 3, actually. God of War, not Call of Duty. Not sure how I get those two confused there. Call of War, God of Duty. But I've never played God of War 1 through 3, like the original trilogy, right? The first 3 games. And a lot of people were very surprised by that, which I think is understandable. And you guys were telling me, like, dude, you have to try to play these games. Like, they're must play. And you're a lot of you were saying that it'll just add a lot more to the experience that I'm that when I go play God of War 2018 again, but also yeah, MBG, the Son of Zeus Xbox game. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. But also, it was one of these things where you guys were really telling me, like, dude, you got to do yourself a favor and play these games. And the main reason I've avoided playing that, it's not that I've actively avoided it, I just didn't really think of it, is because I just, like, I don't know, I never really felt like this is something I should go out of my way to do. But after Lieutenant Kratos Pierce, there you go. There you go. Chat's going crazy right now. But yeah, so I have started to play God of War 1. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to give you my thoughts on PlayStation Plus Premium, because that's how I'm accessing God of War. All right, so I subscribe to it, and I haven't done too much in it yet. I'm going to be honest, I have no interest in the classics. I subscribed to PlayStation Plus Premium so I could do the streaming. Right now, the classic selection for PS Plus Premium is not very good. I think Sony has a lot of work to do there. But just kind of like browsing and navigating through it, something I hope Sony improves upon a little bit with PlayStation Plus Premium so far. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to spend more time with it and I need to kind of like dig a little bit deeper. But it was not easy really navigating, or at least not as intuitive as I expected it to be in terms of like navigating PlayStation Plus Premium. It just kind of felt like there's just like stuff everywhere. And I'm like, maybe this is because I don't know, I don't spend that much time on streaming services. This is my first time really diving into a streaming service for video games. And, it feels certainly a lot less overwhelming than the PlayStation Store itself. Like if you're just going into the PlayStation Store and just looking at everything, it's like, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. So it's definitely curated and you can get that sense. But also, like looking through a lot of the games, there's just so much stuff. There's so many games in PlayStation Plus Premium and Extra that are just like, is anybody really going to play this? You know, like maybe, I'm sure there's maybe somebody who's going to play, but there's just like, you could tell there's just filler stuff in there. And I understand that. I'm not saying there shouldn't be. There's always going to be filler, but I could immediately identify that there was some filler stuff. But and this is the most important thing I want to say about PlayStation Plus Premium with my experience with it so far. After you're asking for examples, if I brought it up right now, I could definitely give you quite a few. But the main point that I want to get at with my opinion here is after looking through the entire catalog, I looked through all of PlayStation Plus Extra. I looked through all of the PS3 games. I looked through all the classics. I even looked at all the trials. The conclusion that I came to for myself is that I was correct. I was correct for me, not in regards to anybody else. For me, when I looked at Sony rolling out PlayStation Plus Premium and I saw what they were offering, and I just realized that this isn't for me. In the same way that Xbox Game Pass isn't for me, PlayStation Plus Premium isn't for me. And the biggest reason is because when I looked at any game that would pop up in PlayStation Plus Extra, not Premium, not with like PS3 games, specifically with PlayStation Plus Extra, any game that would pop up that I would have any interest in playing, I already played. Like I already bought that game and I played it. You're saying, but MBG, they put games on there every month. And that's the thing, is like, I'm not saying that my mind won't change. I'm not saying that for as long as I'm subscribed to PlayStation Plus Premium, if Sony adds something to the catalog that I actually didn't buy and I didn't play, maybe it will be that game that's like, oh, I've thought about it. You know, I thought about playing that game and I just never really got to that point to where I took the plunge, I bought it, and yeah, sure, that works. You know, that works for me. And it's just that as of right now, you know, it's funny because one of the games that is now on the service is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I literally bought that game like probably a month and a half, almost 2 months ago at this point. But I'm not upset. See, that's the thing too, is like, because I do like collecting physical games, I wasn't upset. You know, this wasn't one of those situations where it's like, I should have waited. I mean, I couldn't have known that it was going to enter the service, but I also wanted to have a physical copy of the game to collect and put with my collection on my shelf, right? So taking into account all of these factors, I don't think PlayStation Plus Premium is bad, I don't even think it's a bad deal. It truly just, it comes down to the same thing it always comes down to. It's, you got to try to determine for yourself if it's something that you feel like is offering you a few different things that you really will utilize, you will play, you will engage with, and it will ultimately feel like it's worth your money, it's worth your time, then there's definitely something there, right? Like, that's the thing. There is content there. Sony, this is not a barren service. The only area where I would say that if you were to subscribe to PlayStation Plus Premium just for PlayStation Classics, I wouldn't recommend that. Not now. Sony needs to do more work. They need to really kind of add more. There's very few there. And a lot of the big hitter games that you would expect aren't there. So they need to do more work with the classics for sure. I can't deny that. And I would actually recommend against Premium if that's your only reason for doing so. But if you're looking for PS3 games to stream, if you're, Trials, Trials is kind of tough right now, because even with Trials, like you can tell Sony like is still in the early stages with PlayStation Plus Premium, because there aren't that many. Like, there's actually less game trials than I would have expected there to be. But again, for game trials, The only game that I saw there that I would maybe be interested in trying myself, and I don't know that I'm going to right now, but the only one I could find there that I was like, maybe I'll give this a try, was Cyberpunk. But even then, I'm like, I don't know. So depending on how Game Trials grows, the point is, I would not recommend anybody subscribe to PlayStation Plus Premium for just one singular thing, right? I would recommend looking into what's on offer. So look at the PS3 games, look at the classics, look at the trials. And if those things combined together feel like it's enough for you, then go for it. But if you're not impressed by what you're seeing and you're just not really that interested, then I can't recommend it. PlayStation Plus Extra, however, it's really, really easy to recommend PlayStation Plus Extra if there are multiple Sony exclusives that you have yet to play, like Demon's Souls, Ghost of Tsushima, Bloodborne, of course. I think they have God of War on there. What was another? I know there was another one, Death Stranding. They're probably Returnal. Can't forget that. They're probably going to add games like Ratchet and Clank eventually. So again, like for me, these titles, it doesn't speak to me because I've already played them. But I can absolutely tell you that if you're somebody who held out on these games, Red Dead Redemption 2, if you're somebody who held out on these games, go for it. And there are quite a few third-party games there as well. Again, there's some filler content, some filler games, but Guardians of the Galaxy's on there. So when it comes to like overall value, I think PlayStation Plus Extra really nails it. I think Premium needs a little bit more work. However, this is where I'm going to now talk to you about my experience with streaming a game through the cloud for the first time. I'm going to get to that in just a second. We have Boo Boo Defoo. Thank you for the $5, my friend. You're saying, MBG, this is why the NFT is huge. Imagine having sellable licenses gamers can use in a peer-to-peer network. Publishers/retailers get a cut of it all. I don't know, man. I'm still not sold on NFTs. I'm not. I don't know that I ever will be. I feel like if the day ever comes where I'm sold on NFTs, it's going to be because there's something will come out involving NFTs that just makes total sense to me. And like they're showing me, like, see, look at this. Like this is involving NFTs. And everybody will turn and be like, that's really cool. So like what you're describing, you're saying, this is why the NFT is huge. You're saying, imagine. Okay. You're saying, imagine. I don't want to have to imagine right now with NFTs. I don't want to imagine with NFTs. I want to be shown. Show me. If there's a company that truly believes in NFTs, if there's a company that is really believing in that this could benefit the user, the gamer, and them as well, mutually, then show me. That's all. I don't want to have to imagine. And that's I think a big problem with NFTs right now is right now it's all about we can do this and we could do this, but it's like that, like I don't like that terminology because that just kind of sounds like, you know what I mean? Like it sounds like you're trying too hard to sell me on something here. If something is worth it and something is good and something is as good as you want to believe it is and make it sound, it should be able to speak for itself, right? Just saying. Just saying. Josh, you're saying, I can foresee Returnal becoming a PlayStation darling like Bloodborne down the road, and then us never getting a sequel. The co-op is very fun, too. Yeah, I don't imagine getting a sequel to Returnal. It would be really cool and really nice if we did, and I think Housemarque confirmed that right now they're working on a new IP. And they did say that I think they kind of alluded to maybe they can return to Returnal eventually, but right now that's not on the docket, so I agree. I could see it kind of taking that same course. But my experience streaming a PS3 game through PlayStation Plus Premium, a couple things worth noting here. I have good internet, okay? I have very good internet, and I have a wired connection to my PS5. So I have not, what you're going to hear from me is not me playing with suboptimal internet or a Wi-Fi connection, a wireless connection. I'm wired in. And to my surprise, I was impressed, dude. I have to say, like, I was genuinely, I went in thinking this is going to be a terrible experience. I went in assuming that I'm going to have to adjust to the latency and the input lag, and it's just going to be a suboptimal experience. I'm not kidding when I tell you I have not noticed a difference. Like, I cannot tell the difference. It's that good. And I couldn't believe it. I was sitting here wondering, like, did Sony upgrade their servers or something, or did they change something? Because it's really, really solid. And I think I have about 3.5 hours into God of War, and there were a few moments when playing it that it felt like I couldn't tell if it was the game and the frame rate was hitching a little bit or if it was the stream connection. It was very minimal though, and it's only happened I think like once or twice. But I have to tell you guys, like, I'm pleasantly surprised because my experience in playing God of War so far has actually been a very good one. And you're asking me how sharp is it graphically? So that's the thing, is like, it looks better than I anticipated because I originally forgot that they remastered the games. Like, I thought that I was going to actually be playing the PS2 version, but I forgot that Blue Point, I think, helped remaster the games. And so it definitely looks better than I anticipated because of that. But you could still tell it's a PlayStation 2 game. You know, like, it's rough around the edges. It's definitely a PS3 remaster. I would have to see, I think, a native version of this game running in front of me on my screen before I can basically make a comparison. Because for me, it looks fine. You know, like, I'm not expecting much from it because it's a PS3 remaster of a PS2 game, you know? So I guess I just don't really care how it looks. You know, it's not like I went in thinking like, oh, this is going to look as good as God of War 3, right? Or God of War 2018. No, not at all. But yeah, so I had to put a bit of emphasis on this because, again, guys, I was never, I'm not saying I'm advocating for cloud gaming, but when it's done this well in this way, it's like, yeah, this is a very good use case. You know, it's where, for somebody like me, where it's like, I want to play God of War for the first time and I want to experience it. And I have the option to do that. Obviously, if I could play it natively, I would prefer that. But I just really was expecting a much, much less experience than what I've received so far. And I even was like testing it, where I'm sitting there and I'm like hitting square and I'm seeing like how much lag. There is no lag. There's no lag. I couldn't believe it. If like whatever lag is there, it's like milliseconds, and I can't detect it. And that's so surprising to me. So, you know, I guess I'm a cloud gamer now, guys. I mean, it is what it is. Mike says, okay, MBG, you can stop capping now. Dude, I'm not. See, you have to understand, dude, I'm not an advocate for cloud gaming. Like I said, I've always been against it. But I've always also thought, you know, as a supplemental thing, sure. Like, I couldn't get behind Google Stadia, and I couldn't get behind anybody who's like, this is the future, because I'm like, this is not, no. Like, native gaming experiences. You know, this is what I believe in. But I'll put it to you this way. If this is a way for people to play to experience certain games that they otherwise just wouldn't be able to, I think it's fine. Like if cloud streaming is your only option and you happen to have, and that's the key here, is I have good internet. So, you know, if I had not so great internet, there's a really good chance I could be sitting here and be like, wow, this is terrible. I don't even want to play it. but I'm happy about it. Like I'm happy because again, I'm trying to play through God of War. I think I'm gonna have to stream God of War 1 and 2, and I think God of War 3 I can play natively because there's the PS4 remaster. But I'm gonna have to stream God of War 1 and 2 to play it through the cloud. So I'm happy that it's good. I'm happy that it's working. I would have been very annoyed and agitated if it's like, okay, this is how I'm gonna have to play this game. So yeah, that's been my experience with it. But now I want to kind of give you my thoughts a little bit on God of War. Okay? Again, pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised. I'll tell you why. Let me read these super chats first. We have Church Key. You're saying we need NFTs for our damn DLCs so they stop taking them from us. I guess I'm not fully understanding how that would work. Maybe if you could break that down for me and explain it. Because I do agree that, like, I mean, if you're basically saying that having NFTs could essentially stop the removal of certain digital content and what ultimately feels like the deletion of digital content that we own, which we really don't own, then I could see that. Maybe I could see that as a use case. But I don't know how that would work exactly. At least I don't fully understand how that would work. Andrew, you're saying, what kind of TV do you use? What would you recommend? Right now, I'm using actually, it's a Sony OLED. It's the, which model is it? I think it's the A90. And, wow, dude, like I almost have no words. It's the best visual experience I've ever had. It is. And I've used the LG. Was it the CX or what was the one before that? What was the LG? I'm terrible with the names because they all blend into just the same thing to me. But what was the TV? The C9. Yeah, it's even, dude. It's like way better than maybe not way better, but I notice a difference. The A90K is really, really good. Really nice. And yeah, I've been just really thoroughly enjoying it. So when it comes to Sony and their panels, man, like they know what they're doing for sure. So you're saying I thought you had the LG CX. I did. But so I wasn't like, I was satisfied with it, but I was also kind of in that mode where I'm like, I want to look at other TVs. I want to look at other products. I almost went with like a Samsung at some point, but nah, the LG CX I had for a while. Well, when I say I had, I mean, I used it for a while, right? Like I used it for a good long time. That's where I basically spent my time playing for the first year and a half. And yeah, I basically traded up, man. I was like, dude, has OLED improved? You know? And after experiencing OLED and doing like a little bit more research at the time, I'm like, I don't know that I can go back to like LED. It's not the same anymore. And so, you know what? You guys just totally reminded me. So I finally, I didn't mean to do it, which is what's funny about it. So I experienced 120 hertz for the first time. Now, if you've listened to me in the past, I told you guys that I always actively avoided experiencing 120 because I always felt like once I see it, I'm not going to be able to go back, as ridiculous as that may sound. But it's because once I saw 60, it made it so hard to go back to 30. But I booted up Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War to do a couple rounds, right? And I had my settings, and I didn't know it did this. I had my settings on the PS5 set to performance mode, and so that way anytime you boot up a game, it'll automatically have it in performance mode. And for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, that actually automatically bumped it to 120. And I didn't know that. Like, I thought that was something I was going to have to manually choose. And so I'm like, I'm playing like the game and I'm just like, hold on. Something seems different here. I'm like, why does this look so insanely smooth? And I looked at the settings and it said it was automatically on. And I felt a little bad because I was like, oh no. But I'm happy to report that it is a difference, but people have told me in the past, they're like, dude, you don't have to worry. It's not the same difference as 30 FPS to 60. You can notice it and it makes a difference, but it's not the same. And I'm happy to report, based off of my experience, that it's true. And yeah, now I'm going to have to, now because I've experienced it, I've always avoided it, I'm going to have to go try some of these other PlayStation titles at 120. Because that, yeah, I have yet to experience that firsthand. But you can, for a game like Call of Duty, like it definitely, made a big difference. So I'm like, okay, now I see why people would want to choose to play at 120. Because you do see a reduction in the visual quality a little bit. Like everything looks a little bit more jagged. I think it drops the resolution, but it still looked really good, surprisingly. And yeah, but Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, it actually holds up really well. I remember playing that at the launch of the PS5 a lot, but I see somebody asking, can I see 120? I mean, I could notice. So, but yeah, I don't know how I forgot to mention that, but I guess it's because it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be. Like, I really thought, like, when I saw 120 hertz, I was never going to look at 60 FPS the same way, but that's not true. But anyway, Andrew, as for like, what TV would I recommend? I mean, obviously, if you go with an LG OLED, they're amazing. But this is my first time experiencing a Sony OLED, and it's just as good. There are some aspects about it that I do like better, but you really can't go wrong. I think like any modern day OLED, I think you're gonna have a good experience. I feel like I can't really speak to modern day like LED TVs or anything because it's been a while. MBG about to become a PC gamer. I experienced that 120 hertz greatness. Sony uses LG panels. The irony. Well, hold on then. Well, then surely Sony must add a little something, right? Have I been fooled? Have I been duped? Let me see here, though. The tech is all Sony's. Okay. Samsung as well. That's funny, dude. That's funny how that works. Different processing, different chip processor. Okay. That makes sense. Because I was going to say, like, I noticed some differences for sure. But I guess that's LG's bread and butter. Yeah, doesn't it work the same way with Sony and their lenses, their camera lenses? Doesn't Apple get their camera lenses from Sony? Sony gets them from LG because they give them a good deal. That makes sense. You want to get your mind blown again? Samsung makes iPhone screens. It's interesting how these things work. But it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Tidy's Crow, you're saying, I tried Battlefield 5 streaming on Xbox Series X, first time streaming anytime. Tried for 20 minutes. I have 200 MG internet. Not bad lag, but very soft graphically. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, again, I really do wonder what God of War would look like if I was playing it natively on a PS3. Right? Or if I could play it natively through backwards compatibility. What does this God of War remaster look like? For all I know, it could look significantly different. It says, I think it's at 720p. I know you can stream up to 1080p, but if I'm not mistaken, at least this was my assumption, I saw that it was locked at 720p, so I'm like, I guess the game just runs at 720p. It doesn't actually run at 1080p. which I know with the PS3 era, there were a lot of 720p games. But yeah, I mean, I haven't tried streaming a modern day game, and that's probably where I would notice a bigger difference. Where I'd be like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to hold up as well. But again, it also comes down to what my expectations were. Like again, my expectations for streaming through a PS3 server were god awful, so low. Like I expected it to be horrendous, and it wasn't. So, Zanarkhan Blitzer saying Hanzo Reza is asking MBG, did you see Miyazaki saying FromSoft have a new game and it's nearly done and ready to show soon? Actually, yeah, I have seen that. And from what I understand, from what I can tell, apparently it's going to be an Armored Core game, because there was a leak a while ago that there was another Armored Core game in development at From Software, and this would line up with that. I have seen some people hoping maybe it's something to do with like Bloodborne or another game. It could be. We can't say for certain because we won't know till it's revealed. But as of right now, all signs are pointing towards another Armored Core game, which I don't know how I'd feel about that. I've never played an Armored Core game, so it would be interesting to see that revealed and see what it would look like. So I think that was the first time I ever Zanarkhan Blitzer coming in clutch for Hanzo. Very cool, man. But let me just touch on my experience with God of War so far before we move on to the next topic. So again, similar to how I feel about streaming the game itself, where I was pleasantly surprised, I'm also pleasantly surprised that God of War, for me, seems like it holds up really well. I'm genuinely surprised. I guess maybe I shouldn't be so surprised because so many people are telling me, like, dude, it's a great game. Like, it holds up. The gameplay is so good. Like, the gameplay is just so good. And I was happy, man. Like, I'm like, this is fun. Like, this is, I didn't expect this. Like, I just have this weird, maybe false expectation of any time I go into an older game. And I know that there are older games that do not hold up very well, but it hit so well, man. And I just immediately fell into it. And that to me was surprising. Like I thought I was going to have to feel like, okay, I really got to get settled in here. I got to get in the right frame of mind to deal with this, to play this game. But it's like, no, like, dude, also I gotta shout out Santa Monica here, because it is very surprising how, even though there are some huge differences in the way that this game plays and feels to play compared to God of War 2018, first off, God of War 1, based off of what I played so far, absolutely, I know what the gameplay hook is. Like, I can immediately feel like, oh yeah, this is it. This combat is like S-tier combat, right? But what surprised me is when I thought about my time playing God of War 2018, when you get the Blades of Chaos, how they did such a good job taking the feel of using the Blades of Chaos, at least from what I've played of the first game so far, and kind of bringing that in to God of War 2018, where it still retains its DNA. It's a different camera angle. It's got a slightly heavier feel, but just I don't know, man. They did such a good job, and I'm really impressed by that, and it actually gets me really excited to keep playing this game. And I'm really looking forward to God of War 3, because a lot of you have been telling me, like, dude, God of War 3 is like it's awesome, right? And I think the reason why I'm most interested in God of War 3 is because I feel like that's like the last. I don't know if we count Ascension. I feel like a lot of people were basically like, you don't have to play Ascension. It's really not essential. But God of War 3 is like the one where this was the final game before the transition to what God of War is now. And I'm really interested in that because right now, playing the first game, you can just see how like they're just so different. And it feels like, oh yeah, God of War 1 for the PlayStation 2. This is how it should feel because it's an older game. And that's why I'm interested to play God of War 3, because I know God of War 3 is still kind of that older style, that original style God of War, but the most modern version. Although, again, this is where I don't know if they make some dramatic changes with Ascension, but it's awesome, dude. I'm one of the things I have to tell you that I'm immediately beginning to feel like I always knew that the games were brutal, right? Like I knew that Kratos was just a very ultra violent, like almost like Mortal Kombat level where he's just tearing heads off, ripping limbs, and it's all like it's just so cool because I can immediately sense like, yep, that's Kratos, but this is a different version of Kratos that I have yet to experience. And I'm actually really glad once again that I listened to you guys, and I'm doing this Road to Ragnarok series because we're going through God of War 1 through 3, which I'm calling it Road to Ragnarok, because it automatically, even just for the little bit I've played, it's given me more of an appreciation for what I played with God of War 2018. And I have a feeling it's all going to kind of culminate in having an even greater appreciation to, with Ragnarok. So, yeah, it's I'm trying to think. So something else that I want to say too that was really a nice surprise is there's more depth to the game than I was expecting. When I was playing, when I first started playing God of War, I kind of was under the impression that the moveset you have at the beginning is like, that's the game. Like you're just going to have that same moveset and maybe, get like a special ability here and there. But it is deeper than that. Like I was noticing like there's a pretty decent upgrade system here at play where I'm going to be honest, like I wasn't expecting to unlock new moves to use. And that was a nice surprise because I really thought that this was just like a bare bones, like almost like proof of concept type of experience. And I'm surprised, like, okay, yeah, dude, that like Sony was nailing the AAA gaming experience with the PS2 as well. Like you can kind of see how like there's certain aspects that were there that when I think back to the PS2 era, I was like, oh yeah, that's a bit surprising. I don't know why. Maybe it shouldn't be, but it's a nice surprise. So yeah, just to wrap up this topic, guys, PlayStation Plus Premium. For me personally, it feels worth it right now because I'm able to access streaming and I'm able to play some games that I want to play. I feel like PlayStation Plus Extra is really where you might want to go if you're considering it. But if you are interested in PS3 streaming, if you have good internet, it's way better than I expected it to be. So, and my thoughts on God of War so far, really enjoying it. More so than I thought I would. I thought I was going to be coming to you guys and being like, guys, I can see what you really like about God of War, but I'm just not feeling it as much. And I don't feel that way at all. Like I actually feel like, wow, yeah, now I see why you guys are saying, dude, these games hold up, go play them. And I'll be sure to, keep reporting on it with you, guys. Am I going to stream The Last of Us remake on YouTube? I plan to. Yeah, that's my hope. I think that could make for a fascinating stream session. I'm actually looking forward to it because I know that there's a lot of discourse around it, which I don't think really matters at this point. People are going to come to their own conclusions, but I think at the very least it will, it'll create some interesting conversation, hopefully. And honestly, I'm making a bigger effort to start reviewing more games and talking more about games. And I feel like The Last of Us Part 1 would be a good place to start. Well, I already did start with Final Fantasy VII, and now with the original God of War games. But I just think that The Last of Us will be the natural continuation of that. And my hope is I do want to stream. I don't know if I'm going to stream God of War 1 through 3 right now. I'm just playing it on my own. But I do want to try to stream God of War 2018, if possible, in October, leading up to Ragnarok, which would be pretty cool. I may still stream some of these God of War games too. I'm not entirely sure yet. Saying y'all got to play VRR Last of Us 1 120 hertz. Did I get the platinum for God of War 2018? Actually, I didn't. No. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know. I guess it's like the same reason I didn't get the platinum for Final Fantasy VII. It's because there's just these games where like the experience is so good. I don't feel the need. Like I feel like I've gotten everything out of it that I could. Maybe that's not true. I'm sure there's more to be done in the game for the platinum, but I just felt totally satisfied and totally content where I'm just like, this is perfect. Like I don't want to overplay it. You know, I feel like but I don't know. Maybe Ragnarok I'll try to get the platinum. Perfect Image, you're saying, I miss the old COD. Your rewards were based on yourself rather than pay to win. I don't know if I even care about COD because I'm so GTA, Ghost, Watchdog, and Heat. PS has crazy games, I guess is what you're trying to say. You know what? That's actually a topic we're going to discuss next. We're going to talk about Call of Duty because there's definitely some interesting conversation, to say the least, going on with Call of Duty and Microsoft and Sony. So before we dive into that, guys, again, hit that like button for me. All right, so I'm sure most of you saw that there was a lot of write-ups about Sony talking about Call of Duty, and I did make a video talking about it. I specifically covered a Push Square article where, I mean, looking back, it's pretty funny because it's like, of course there would be a headline written like that, but where like Sony is shook and scared about Microsoft owning Call of Duty. But I came across another article that is very interesting because when I talked about this originally, there was another aspect that I neglected, but I think it really paints a clear picture here. So this article is actually coming from Kotaku, and the title says, Sony says Call of Duty is an essential game series, while Microsoft argues it isn't. So think about that. Let's read that one more time. Sony says Call of Duty is an essential game series, while Microsoft says it's not. So what I find fascinating about this, okay, is this past week, I've seen a lot of different takes on this. And one of the most common takes that we've seen from certain individuals, I'll just word it that way, is that Sony, we're going to clown Sony and maybe even Sony fans because Sony themselves admitted that Call of Duty is essential. All right. And it's unrivaled. So this is what Sony said. And this comes in from an angle where, you know, the people who are kind of really running with this, if we were to ask them, do you agree? Do you agree with Sony? And the answer, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I have seen quite a few people with hot takes on this, or with people who just want to, you know, really kind of run with it. They are in agreement, right? Like, if a PlayStation fan, this is what I'm trying to point out here. If a PlayStation fan were to say Call of Duty is a non-essential game, they're going to get I don't want to say harassed, but there's going to be a flood of Microsoft fans, of maybe Call of Duty fans, maybe even some PlayStation fans that are going to say, you are wrong. It is an essential game. And you're also a clown because even Sony says it's an essential game. But here's my question. Then why is Microsoft arguing it's not an essential game? Could it be that what we are witnessing is nothing more than lawyers doing their jobs? Could it be? Well, let's read the rest of this article. Microsoft, in a bid to downplay the possible ramifications of its attempted acquisition of Activision to various international regulating agencies, is arguing that the Call of Duty publisher it's spending billions of dollars on doesn't actually produce any games that could be considered, quote, must-haves, end quote. Meanwhile, Sony is pushing back and explaining that Call of Duty games are, in fact, essential and even influence some people's console buying decisions. So, there we have it, folks. I think people are just kind of getting a little out of pocket with this. I do. I've seen some people argue that Sony is trying to block the Activision Blizzard deal from going through. And it's like, of course they are. Of course. Like, why wouldn't they? Like, on what planet are people coming from or living on that they believe Sony is happy to see this? That Sony is just going to say, yeah, go ahead, Microsoft, take them. We're good. Like, come on. I just think that's kind of foolish because Activision Blizzard is one of the biggest video game publishers in the world. You're saying, bro, why don't you talk about Xbox and PlayStation on your channel? Forget about this war thing. Well, I am talking about both. And I don't think that this isn't a console war thing. That's what's really strange because I've seen people attempt to turn it into that. And it's like, that's literally not what this is, though. And I don't know why people would, I guess maybe things are just so slow and boring right now that, you know, this makes for the best, juiciest headline. But I mean, I'm here talking about it because it's one of the only things to talk about that happened this week. But the reality is this: Sony wants Call of Duty on their platform. They don't want their rival owning Call of Duty. Microsoft wants to own Call of Duty as soon as they possibly can, and they don't want any problems. They don't want anything to get in the way of them owning Call of Duty. And all we're seeing at play here are lawyers from Sony and lawyers from Microsoft just literally saying what they're supposed to say. So Sony's going to come out and they're going to say, oh my God, Call of Duty is the most essential game. This is huge. There's nothing out there that can compete with it. There's nothing that can touch Call of Duty. Like they're really going to kind of play that part. And you're going to see Microsoft come out and they're going to say, you know, this thing that we're buying for almost $70 billion, it's not essential. Are you kidding me? It's fine. It's not a must-have. It's stupid on both sides. Like what Sony's saying is stupid and what Microsoft is saying is stupid, because the reality is the truth is in the middle between what they're both saying. I think Sony is going to be fine. Like, and I don't think Sony themselves are nearly as worried as they kind of, their lawyers are making it sound. The reality is Sony is still going to get Call of Duty. Microsoft said this. You know? So let me ask you this. If Microsoft said to Sony, don't worry, we're going to keep Call of Duty multi-platform, it's still going to release on PlayStation, why would Sony come out and still sit here and try to argue against Microsoft owning it? Again, because that's their lawyer's job. It's what they're going to do. And I ask, why would Microsoft downplay their own purchase? Why would they do that? Why would Microsoft try to say Call of Duty isn't essential? Don't they want people? White Umbrella says, welcome to the MBG. Let me see. Welcome to the MBG mental gymnastics class. Be sure to limber up first so you don't strain anything. Well, you might want to be careful, dude. You might want to be careful, White Umbrella, because you might end up straining your own brain here if you actually listen to what I'm saying. Because you'll find that what I'm saying is the truth. And it shouldn't be difficult for you. Like, you shouldn't have to do mental gymnastics to wrap your head around this, my friend. Like, Microsoft is literally saying Call of Duty is not essential. Why would they say that? Swizz242 says, no, it's not the truth. Well, then tell me, what's the truth, Swizz? If you know, go ahead, I'm listening. Tell me, why would Microsoft say Call of Duty is not essential? I'm waiting. Sony said the truth. Well, here's the thing. At no point did I say that Sony isn't telling the truth. I'm saying that they're overblowing it. They're blowing it out of proportion. Now, I will also add this. If Microsoft made it clear that Call of Duty was going to be exclusive and that Call of Duty was going to be completely removed from PlayStation's platform, then I do think almost everything that Sony's saying would actually, it wouldn't be even a little bit overblown because, that is true. Like, talking about Call of Duty itself, let's face the facts here, people. It's massive. If you want to talk about Sony speaking the truth, the one thing Sony did say that is absolutely true, again, I don't know that it impacts them as much. It does, but if it's still releasing on the platform, I'm just not believing that it's going to be as detrimental. The one thing that Sony said about Call of Duty that's absolutely true is it is unrivaled. It doesn't have a rival. Sony doesn't have anything to rival Call of Duty. Microsoft doesn't have anything to rival Call of Duty. No other video game publisher has anything that can rival Call of Duty. And that is a fact. That is the truth. So if you want to talk about who's really kind of maybe on the money here, it is Sony. But I'm just trying to highlight the fact that it doesn't really matter what Sony's saying because look at what Microsoft is saying. Microsoft is literally out here practically clowning their own fan base by saying Call of Duty is not essential. Who cares about Call of Duty? That's not what I was told. That's not what Xbox fans, what video game analysts, what pretty much everybody has been saying, which is Call of Duty is a juggernaut. A colossus. It's massive. So what I'm trying to say is the truth lies in the middle here, people. The truth is Call of Duty is unrivaled. And it probably to a degree does influence what console people choose to buy. But at the same time, I think there is at least a little bit of truth to what Microsoft is saying. And I think if I had to interpret on a more practical level what Microsoft is trying to say, I think what Microsoft is trying to say is that it's not a problem if we own Call of Duty because it's going to stay everywhere. Right? Whether it's essential or not, it's going to be there for people who want it. And I think that's what matters. And that's why I'm the thing that you want to know what I call into question here? The thing that I'm calling into question with this whole Call of Duty situation, it's pretty simple. I'm just wondering when exactly was this stated from Sony? Like, I mean, literally, like, what date? Was it in June? Was it in May? Was it in March? Because some people were telling me, or they were saying that, oh, these are comments that Sony made right after they learned about the acquisition. And I don't know about that, because if that's true, then why are we just learning about it now? But that's the question that I would like to have answered. When did Sony and Microsoft make these comments? What date? Because Sony, like, we talked about it back in January. And yeah, Sony was probably a little bit shook when they found out, like, Microsoft just bought Activision. They're going to be acquiring Activision Blizzard. In other words, they're going to own Call of Duty. You better believe Jim Ryan picked up his phone and was blowing up Phil Spencer's phone, being like, we got to talk right now. What's going to happen? Are we losing Call of Duty? We need to know. Why do you think Phil Spencer took to Twitter and literally said that he talked to Sony and their partners and that Call of Duty is going to remain multi-platform? Because yes, Sony was absolutely coming out and saying, we need to figure this out. Like, we need to know. And that's because, yes, it would have a massive impact. Where Sony is correct is that it would have a huge impact in the fact that Sony doesn't have anything to fill that gap. It doesn't have anything to rival Call of Duty if Call of Duty is no longer offered on their platform. And they would also lose a ton of money. So yeah, Sony has every reason to be concerned and to want to know what's going to happen when Microsoft owns Call of Duty. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if these comments were made right after the announcement, before Sony talked to Microsoft and before Microsoft made it clear that it's going to be multi-platform, then it makes sense why they're basically out here being like, we're going to try to block this, right? But when it comes to Microsoft, I don't know. I do think Microsoft is being a bit extra themselves here, where it's like, yeah, I could see how maybe, you see that Call of Duty's numbers are falling, right? Call of Duty, it's still massive. It's still, to a degree, mostly unrivaled in the sense that sales-wise, just branding, there's nothing that can really match it, but it's still kind of dropping, It's still kind of dropping a little bit. And so I just kind of think to myself, I don't know, how much longer, this is the question I have, how much longer can Call of Duty stay on top? That's all I wonder, Because it's been there, I think, a lot longer than we anticipated it ever would be. I mean, I remember, back when, Modern Warfare 3 was coming out and Black Ops 2, I remember people were like, this is it, this is peak, it's all downhill from here. And somehow, some way, it's like they're still considered at the top in their genre. Like, there's really nothing that has surpassed it. But yeah, I guess you could make an argument that games like Fortnite now rival it, right? But yeah, Modern Warfare 2 is huge, but it's so weird because it's like we're getting Modern Warfare 2, like we're getting it again. But let me read these super chats real quick. We have Gmold36. You're saying my top 5 God of War list. Number 1, God of War 2. Number 2, God of War 3. Number 3, God of War 2018, which should have been called God of War 4, but whatever. Number 4, God of War. And number 5, God of War Ascension. Interesting. Yeah, maybe when I'm done playing all of them, I'll have to give you my list. Do you know how many devs they throw at COD MAG? Well, apparently it's 1,500 plus, which is insanity. And that's what makes Microsoft's comments so funny, is Microsoft's nah, it's not a must-have. It's not essential. It's well, I mean, when you're throwing 1,500 developers at a single game, it's I don't know, man. You're certainly treating it like it's essential, right? I guess I'm just saying that it's people are getting so hung up on the comments that both of these companies are making, when in reality, it's just, again, try to cut out the noise a little bit and just look at it for what it is. Call of Duty's massive, and it will probably never be exclusive. And when you look at it from that lens, I don't think this is I feel like this was an issue or an actual decent topic to discuss when we first learned about the acquisition, because we didn't have answers. We didn't know, but we now know. And even with this information coming out, like even if Sony comes out, if Sony came out and said, we are literally shook right now, that'd be pretty damn comical, first of all. But if they came out and said, we are literally shook, we are scared, we don't know what to do, I would just be like, I don't care. Like, that's not my, like, I'm not shook. I'm a PlayStation fan who plays on your platform. I don't feel shook, you know? Shouldn't you be worried about what your fans think? And this leads me into my next point that I want to make about this, which I'm going to speak on in just a second. Perfect Image, you're saying if Sony puts SOCOM on the map, it will beat COD. Well, for as much as I want to see SOCOM come back, I don't know that it will ever beat Call of Duty. That won't happen, unfortunately. But again, that doesn't mean if SOCOM is done right and it's handled well and it's a quality game, it would be something that Sony offers that Microsoft doesn't. You know what I mean? And again, it's not going to be on the same level as Call of Duty, but I feel like at this point, if I had to choose between, not that I have to choose, but if I had to choose between being able to continue to buy Call of Duty on PlayStation or Sony bringing out a very high quality AAA SOCOM game that, you know, has the same maybe like live service structure as Call of Duty, I think I personally would probably choose SOCOM because I still play Call of Duty, but I don't know. I don't know that I care about Call of Duty to the degree in which I would feel the need if it like was exclusive to another platform or I couldn't play it on PlayStation. I don't know that it would make me be like, well, I got to go over here and invest in this platform to get my Call of Duty fix. I'm just speaking for myself. Millions of people would, though. Millions of people would. And I'm not denying that. Millions of people would absolutely trade in their PlayStations or sell them if they could no longer buy Call of Duty on it and it was only on Xbox or PC. Millions of people. But not everybody. Primal Plasma, you're saying, MBG, you really trust Microsoft's word on this? At the last minute, they're going to make Call of Duty not Warzone an Xbox exclusive. Yeah, I think that might be the concern, man. And that would be strange to me. I don't know. Like that's the thing is I'm not a, as you can tell, and I'm sure it's not difficult to tell, I'm not a businessman, right? Like I'm just an armchair analyst, and I have no problem admitting that. You know, I don't know the inner workings of these things. As the only thing I feel like I do kind of understand, and I think that pretty much everybody understands this, is that unless Sony signs a contract with Microsoft, a legally binding contract that says Microsoft cannot make Call of Duty exclusive to the Xbox and they have to continue to release it on PlayStation, then as far as my understanding goes, at any point, yeah, Microsoft could just be like, you know what? Never mind, Sony. We're going to make it exclusive. And there's just literally nothing Sony or anybody else can do about it. People have said that the only reason Phil Spencer are expressing their intent to maintain the multi-platform availability of Call of Duty is to not get in trouble with regulators. Because if Phil Spencer came out and said, we are planning to make it exclusive, and if Microsoft said, oh yeah, 5 years from now, we're going to make it exclusive, there's a good chance that this could be blocked because of how big Call of Duty is. But you also have to look at it from this point of view as well. And I did point this out in my video, and I think that this really is what makes the most sense to me. And that, you know, of course, there are people like, oh, this is just copium. It's like, again, it's not copium for me, man. I'm not the biggest Call of Duty fan in the world by any means. So when I say this, I think it makes the most sense. Listen, if you're Microsoft and you look at the amount of sales you get from Call of Duty on PlayStation, and then you look at how much money that makes for you, that you could just rake in without lifting a finger, right? Like you just get to rake in that money now as your revenue. And then you also have the benefit on your side where we can now offer Call of Duty on Game Pass. Do you really, again, I'm just put yourself in Phil Spencer's shoes, in Satya Nadella's shoes, right? If you're them, do you really then say, you know what? We're going to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation, and all that money, those millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that we would get every year, we're just going to toss that. I mean, you could argue there's a benefit to that, and the benefit is you're gonna rip a lot of people away from your opponent's platform. But I'll put it to you this way. You know what I think will happen? This is what I think. This is what I think will happen. I think at first, when Microsoft has full ownership of Call of Duty, when Microsoft officially owns it and the contract between Sony and Microsoft, or Sony and Activision, is expired, and first of all, you'll never see marketing between Call of Duty and Sony again. So that's a benefit that Microsoft automatically has by owning it. All the marketing will be Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, Xbox, Xbox, Xbox. This is the home of Call of Duty. So right off the bat, they'll have that. And what I think they will do is they will test it out. I think what Microsoft's going to do is they're going to still allow Call of Duty to release yearly on PlayStation, and they want to see the numbers. I think they're going to see how many new Game Pass subscribers did we gain by offering. I don't think it's going to be Treyarch's next game, because if I'm not mistaken, Sony still has the contract for Treyarch's next game. But whatever game is after that, Modern Warfare 3 eventually, maybe Sledgehammer's next game, whatever it's going to be, I think what they're going to do is they're going to see, like, how much did our Game Pass numbers climb? And they'll probably have a set number that they're expecting to see. And if they don't reach that number for Game Pass subs, now that they have Call of Duty, then I think you'll see Microsoft get really aggressive and say, you know what, Sony, never mind. We're taking this off your platform, because even though we're going to lose a lot of money, we're going to lose a ton of money by removing Call of Duty from PlayStation. We care about Game Pass, and that is our number one priority. And so now making Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox is not necessarily going to force people to subscribe to Game Pass, but in essence, if you're somebody who needs to play Call of Duty and you want to play Call of Duty, you're either going to buy it on Xbox or you're going to subscribe to Game Pass, and you now kind of have no choice, right? You're saying this is fear-mongering at its finest? No, I'm not. Dude, I think this is a pretty balanced take, man, where, like, I'm playing both sides here, where I think that sounds, from a business perspective, like a realistic possibility. Because think about it, like, if you're Microsoft, you don't spend $68 billion to just say, oh, we own Call of Duty. Maybe at first you do. You spend $68 billion to take something that would have previously never been available on your subscription service, and now you make it available on your subscription service. And I think that that's the approach that Microsoft's taking. I think the approach is it's simply, is this going to benefit Game Pass, and how much is it going to benefit Game Pass? And the answer is yes, a whole lot. And I think for Microsoft right now, that's good enough. And also, you have to consider this. Microsoft did spend $68 billion. They have to recoup that eventually. Like, they have to recoup that. So being able to rake in all that revenue that PlayStation will make off of Call of Duty sales-wise, being able to rake that in, it will help them get to that, to pay off that $68 billion and even it out a lot quicker. So we'll see, man. the reality is we don't know the future, obviously. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. I just think it's ridiculous that people are getting so thrown into so many, they're allowing themselves to be thrown into so many different extreme directions over some comments that very likely were not actually intended to do anything other than speak to regulators. You know, like these were comments that we as regular people were not meant to see. These are comments that were meant to be read by the regulators, by the people who are in charge of either A-okaying the process or blocking the process. And that's why it doesn't really matter if somebody says, well, look at that, Sony shook and they're scared. Sony doesn't care. I'm sure Sony's not thrilled to see the headlines written up and what people are saying, but the only thing Sony cares about is when a regulator reads our comments, is it going to give them pause? I'm not the one fear-mongering here. Sony's the one fear-mongering. And Microsoft is essentially trying to turn and say, don't listen to Sony. They're just trying to make it seem bigger than it is. And it's just so funny when you zoom out and look at it, because it's like these are corporate, billion-dollar corporate entities, and this is the language they speak, man. This is how they speak to each other. And it's kind of comical, right? Because I'm over here, and this is the biggest point I want to make on this. This is the biggest point I want to make. Let's put most of what we just talked about aside for a second. And I want to speak to you as a PlayStation fan, somebody who is engaged with the platform, somebody who's invested in the platform, somebody who does care about some of the decisions that Sony's going to make potentially because of how it's going to affect me as the player, right? As the gamer on their platform. I'm all for this. Like, I really want to side with Sony on this. I do. Like, I don't know who I want to side with. I say this because from my perspective, the idea of Sony losing Call of Duty is a tantalizing one. I'm going to tell you why. See, I think people have maybe misunderstood me. And granted, I probably haven't made myself totally clear at times, but I'll make it clear right now. If Sony were to lose Call of Duty, that would be, from the business side of things, catastrophic. Oh yeah. That would be the biggest, harshest, most intense blow from a financial, monetary standpoint that Sony would ever endure with the PlayStation business. Right? And I feel like I would actually be okay with that. Like, I feel like I would actually be like, okay, so what are you going to do now, Sony? You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, I don't like the energy. I don't like the energy that Sony's putting forth here with Call of Duty. Because I don't mean to maybe I do side with Microsoft on this one. I don't want to downplay Call of Duty. But because I've acknowledged the juggernaut that Call of Duty is, I just said how this would be a huge detrimental blow to Sony. But for me, personally, I don't think I would care very much, man. Like, I feel fatigued. I feel Call of Duty'd out. And I used to be like a hardcore Call of Duty player. And I'm just like, you know what? It's 2022. I feel like the last thing I want to see as somebody who is, again, invested in the PlayStation brand is Sony out here, like, simping for Call of Duty. You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's kind of the last thing I want to see, where it's like, you know what? I hope the worst happens. I hope Microsoft does change their mind and they say, because let me tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. What do I care about? What do I care about? Well, when I buy a PlayStation, when I think of a PlayStation, when I think of the PS5, when I think of buying a PlayStation console, I'm not thinking of Call of Duty, dude. I'm not. I'm thinking about the games that PlayStation Studios is going to make, the games that they're going to offer that their rival isn't, right? I'm thinking of single player experiences. I'm thinking of not Call of Duty. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not thinking of Call of Duty. I'm thinking about this. And when I realized that, my God, there probably are millions of people who their only reason for engaging with PlayStation is for Call of Duty. Let me ask you guys, how is that any different than the people who are literally going out there and saying, I'm going to buy a PS4 or a PS5 just to play Fortnite, just to play FIFA? Right? Like, how are they helping us? How are they benefiting us? I don't think they are. And this is what I think. Now, I want to be careful when I say this because it could go the other way. Like, you know, we talk about Sony setting up 10. I agree. I see somebody saying in the chat, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. By all means, buy a console, play on a platform for the reason you want to play, man. I'm not here to condemn you. I'm just simply saying that a Sony whose back is against the wall because they feel that, you know, they had a massive video game series taken away from them that, frankly, I'm mostly indifferent to, that's an interesting Sony to me. That's a Sony that suddenly has to care a lot more about the people that made them who they are, the people that put them on the map. That's a Sony that has to start to care a hell of a lot more about the core fan base, because that casual market that we have the marketing rights for Call of Duty, PlayStation, you don't have that anymore. You don't have that luxury. You don't have that safety net. We've seen this Sony before, guys. We have seen this Sony before. And that was at the start of the PS4 generation, all throughout, where PlayStation's back was against the wall. And this is why I'm not saying that I would celebrate Call of Duty being stripped from the platform, because I don't think it's going to be. I wouldn't make a video saying, I'm happy, good riddance Call of Duty, because I understand that there are a lot of people that casually play Call of Duty, you know, and I'm not saying it's not beneficial to the PlayStation owner to have less. I'm not saying that. But it's just that looking at it from a different perspective, you may be able to kind of see that, well, even though you will technically have less, this could actually be one of the best things to ever happen to PlayStation, because this is going to kick them right in the balls. And I'm going to be real with you guys right now. I've been kind of waiting to see that happen under Jim Ryan's leadership. I don't think Jim Ryan has screwed everything up, and there are a lot of things that Sony is still doing very well, that they're still doing, I think, better than most other publishers. But we have started to see a bit of a shift with Sony, where they very much want to continue as a business, Jim Ryan being a businessman, to just keep growing, to keep that momentum. And that's fine. That's fine. Like, I understand that. I can put myself in the shoes of Jim Ryan, right? Of somebody who's in charge of the PlayStation business, where every quarter you have to report your earnings, and you want to see plus signs, you want to see numbers growing, you want to see numbers going up. But this is where I feel like, you know, one of the things that Jim Ryan said, I think in one of his most recent interviews, where he was explaining why Sony, and I'm going to get to these super chats. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to get to them. I have 2 more that I'm going to get to. Jim Ryan was essentially explaining his reasoning for why they're in the process of creating 10 live service games. And one of the things that he explained, and I'm paraphrasing, but this really kind of, I don't know if I agree with him. Now, granted, I'm going to be honest, Jim Ryan has access to telemetry, to data that I just simply don't. And maybe this is just something I don't want to believe. And maybe to a degree, my line of thinking could be a little bit off the mark and delusional here. But he basically said that the single player market is narrow. He said that he essentially said that the core PlayStation fan base that is out there buying those single player experiences, the reason why they're not focused on that right now and they're actually putting all their focus on, or most of their focus on live service, is because the single player market is kind of narrow. And you see that's where it's tough to hear that, because it's like, I feel like you might be right. Like objectively speaking, I guess you're not wrong, right? Where it's like, yeah, maybe you have reached the upper limit. Maybe you have reached the upper limit. But that's where the fear comes in, where, I'm sure you guys have seen many times before, there have been articles and headlines written up where, where like the core PlayStation fan base isn't enough for Jim Ryan and isn't enough for Sony anymore. And I get it. Like, it's growth mindset. I understand. Again, like, I understand that mindset, and I understand why it's like you always got to grow. You always got to grow. You can never be okay with what is. Always got to go higher. And that's why I'm not fully against doing some live service games, doing some multiplayer games, trying to experiment and do different things. And if anything, it's going to be required from Sony now more than ever. But I guess the point I'm trying to get at here is I'm open. I'm not worried. And I'm not necessarily even against the notion of seeing a Sony PlayStation, let's say by 2025 or 2026, right? Because presumably that's when I think the contract between Sony and Call of Duty is going to be up. I'm not against the notion or the possibility of seeing a Sony that now you have to operate without Call of Duty. You lost Call of Duty. What do? I'm like actually really interested to know what Sony would do. Because they did say that they are afraid that, a series like Call of Duty is going to sway the console that people choose to buy. And let's face it, Sony, and I actually like this, but you still very much rely on console sales. And I like it that way. I think that's fine. I think that's kind of the essence of what PlayStation is. That's how it started. And that should always be an integral part of the PlayStation business, I think. Right? Well, what do you do, Sony? How are you going to stop people from choosing Xbox over PlayStation? What are you going to do to convince people that you should buy a PlayStation instead of an Xbox, or you should play on PlayStation instead of PC, even though you don't have Call of Duty? You see what I'm getting at? That's going to light a fire under Sony's ass like nothing else can or will. And what it might mean is if Sony tries these live service games, and we are under the assumption that Sony is going to at some point succeed. And I want to say that there's a pretty decent chance that Sony will have a hit live service game. I mean, if you're making 10 or 12, surely one of them's going to have to stick, right? But let's just look at a scenario where what if none of them do? What if every live service attempt that Sony tries fails and it just doesn't work for them? Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure Jim Ryan would get fired. But secondly, Sony would have to pivot and they would have to figure out what they're going to do next. And you know what I think? You know what I think would happen next? This is all speculation. Obviously, we have no idea how any of this is going to pan out. What I think would happen next is I think Sony would be like, well, I guess we just got to make even more single player games. And we got to, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that would pretty much be the only thing where Sony, you succeeded in the single player market. You create these big budget AAA single player titles that are, for all intents and purposes, mostly unrivaled, right? And so you've carved out this section of the market, and maybe you did potentially reach its peak. And maybe you've come to the conclusion it doesn't go any higher than this. So now you're trying to carve out these other areas, such as some live service, right? And who knows what else they're working on, but they want to saturate the market with their brand, with their, Last of Us here, everywhere, Uncharted everywhere, Ghost of Tsushima movie, Twisted Metal TV series, the whole 9 yards. And that's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing, but I just can't help but wonder, what if this direction that Sony's going in ultimately fails? And on top of that, they have their competitor, their main competitor, that being Microsoft, buying publishers. It just makes me wonder, what version of Sony do I hope to see 5 years from now? Granted, that's a lot of time, and kind of wrapping back around to the original point, talking about Call of Duty. There's no doubt that Sony's worried about losing Call of Duty, because that's why they're worried. Like, everything I just described, everything I just explained, this is why Sony is ultimately worried about the possibility of losing Call of Duty, because it's what they might have to do next. Sony doesn't want to feel pressured. Sony doesn't want to be back where they were at the beginning of the PS4 generation, where they're like, this is it. This could be our last hurrah, and we got to give it everything we've got. We got to just go, and we got to believe in the PlayStation fan base that they're going to be enough, and we got to let that carry us. They don't want to have to be in that position. And I just feel like in this day and age, when when gaming companies are becoming just, its greed, it really starts to kind of take hold, and is it ever going to be enough? Is it ever going to be enough? And it's like, no, it's not. We want all the money. And I have something that we're going to talk about here when it comes to free-to-play games. And these companies are putting out surveys, literally asking players if they would be okay paying $45 for a skin in their free-to-play game. And you see, this is why. This is why, no matter how optimistic I want to be, the reality we cannot ignore. This is not fear-mongering, so do not mistake it. This is not fear-mongering. This is just the truth. These corporations, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. Do not be fooled by Microsoft when they try to act like your friend and like they don't want your money. They only care about your money. Do not be fooled by Sony when they're showing you, a flashy new trailer, and they're saying, "Hey, we got God of War Ragnarok, but we got 10 live service games." Don't be fooled that they want our money, and we got to be very careful about how they're going to go about getting it. Do not be fooled by any of these corporations, man, because the one saying that you always have to keep in mind is if you give them an inch, they will take the mile. every single time. If they can do it without getting caught, they will do it. So you have to be vigilant. You have to have, your eyes up and looking for this stuff. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it does suck because it's like, it's not really always enjoyable. But we got to be careful because he's saying you're starting to sound like Yang Ye now. And I'm going to be honest, like, I can't operate like Yang Ye all the time. I can't, because if I'm sure he's probably, I don't know Yang Ye, but I'm sure in person, in his everyday life, he's probably not like that 24/7. Nobody should be like that. And if you're passionate about gaming, you don't want to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I get so tired of covering games sometimes, because it's like, that's so many people just, it's always the negative. It's always the bad, and everything's bad. And I know that I sometimes can sound like that, but it's not always bad. But there needs to, there's a natural flow. There's a natural flow. And I would say you just have to identify what maybe goes against that natural flow, right? And if you have to call it out, call it out. If the only thing you have to do is don't interact with it, don't give it your time, don't give it your money, then do that. But because of my position, I'm talking here on a podcast, I do sometimes have to call things out. And we've talked for a while now about PlayStation being super quiet, right? We've talked about PlayStation being super quiet, and I think another reason for that, by super quiet, I mean PlayStation has not really been doing, they haven't had a showcase in a while, and it seems like they're not really giving us much of a roadmap. That's what I'm trying to say. They're not out here being like, this is our games lineup, and this is what we have coming, and this is what we're looking. We've only had like a few select interviews, like every once in a blue moon, of maybe Jim Ryan or Herman Holst being very vague about what they're doing. And it seems like in these interviews, they're not really trying to talk to the gamer. They're doing interviews with like gamesindustry.biz and stuff, where it's like, this seems like it's more for like mostly investors and stuff. They're not really, they're not really making it seem like they're speaking directly to the gamer. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, it will be interesting when Sony does speak directly to the gamer again in a big way, because I feel like part of that is they're going to have to show us a roadmap to a degree, right? Like, what is next for PlayStation? Because after God of War and Spider-Man 2, and I don't even want to count Wolverine, because fine, we'll just say God of War, Spider-Man 2, and Wolverine. Outside of that, what is next? PSVR 2, of course, but we don't know. We don't know. Like, we have no idea from Sony's like long-term point of view what's next. I know Final Fantasy 16. I guess I was talking about like from Sony's first party studios. Of course, Sony's going to continue to have strong partnerships and strong timed exclusives or full exclusives from third parties, of course. But I'm just I'm really curious to know, because when we talk about Call of Duty and we see the importance that Sony puts on it, and there's, of course they're going to, from a business standpoint, it's going to be very important to them. But I just ultimately, as a PlayStation fan, as somebody who is a big fan of PlayStation Studios, I just wonder what this all means. And I agree with JS Hoko, or Jay Shako. I don't know. I feel like that's Jay Shako. It's because the S is capital too. Is it JS Hoko or Jay Shako? Either way, you're saying, MBG, man, I hope we're getting a full showcase in September. I hope so too, man. I hope so too. JV Rod, a member for 29 months. Thank you, man. A long time. You're saying, sorry for the non-gaming question, but have you checked out the new Predator movie, Prey? I personally loved it, and it's definitely worth a watch. I've been hearing phenomenal things about it. And what is that, on Hulu, I think? I'm not subscribed to Hulu. Saying Jay Shaka. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. But I have not seen it, but I've heard really, really good things about it. So, I'll consider if I have to subscribe to Hulu. I don't know. I really don't want to subscribe to another service, but am I correct in that, by the way? Saying the Prey movie was absolutely garbage? Wow, Jason Smith. I'll have to see. It's weird because everybody was saying it was really good, but Josh, you're saying on the A80J, I had to go to the input settings and enable VRR on the particular HDMI input signal. The TV only has two 120 hertz inputs. Is the A90K the same? It might be. I'll have to look into that because I know that it's VRR compatible, but I don't I don't think I have it turned on my PS5, so I'm going to have to look into that. It probably is the same way, which is weird because I probably should have that enabled. And you guys are telling me it is on Hulu. Okay. So I'll look into that, man. Nakamichi, a member for 7 months. You're saying if Microsoft lies to the regulators about not keeping Call of Duty exclusive, it will come back and bite them in the ass. COD isn't a fun franchise anymore. Activision chose to target sweaties that never put the game down. Yeah, I agree. COD doesn't really feel as casual as it once did. And that's for sure. With skill-based matchmaking, it's like, yeah, you better put a bandana on or something if you're going to actually try to play. But that's something else I do wonder as well. Like, can Microsoft can they go back on their word? I mean, after telling regulators, that's something else. Because I talked earlier as if there needs to be a contract involved, but maybe not. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, can Microsoft lie to regulators? Or are there some serious ramifications for doing such a thing? I have to imagine you can't just straight up lie to them, right? They can lie? That's so stupid then. If that's true, then they have to operate. Yes, they can. Check Hogue Law's video. That's so bizarre to me if that's true. Where the regulator comes in, Phil Spencer, Microsoft, you're not going to make Call of Duty exclusive now, are you? And they're like, no, we promise we won't. Okay, we'll let it go through. And then it goes through and it's like, we're making it exclusive. It's like, what the hell? What? That's crazy if that's true. The FTC can retroactively come back and sue them. Interesting. It's so weird the way this stuff works, man. If only the conversations were that simple. Yeah, I know, right? Well, no, they can't, MBG. It's called an intended action. It can be reopened if they don't do what they say. So based off of what everybody's saying, it sounds like technically, on the most technical level, they can, if they really wanted to, lie. But there's a really good chance that if they do lie and they go back on what they said, the FTC is going to come after them, or the regulators are basically going to be knocking on their door being like, you want to explain this? Which would probably be a bad thing. So I don't know. I guess, yeah, I think that's worth pointing out as well. Shelly points out Minecraft stayed multiplat, and that I think is worth pointing out, where we can end this topic ultimately, is that, I mean, let's be honest here. If Microsoft really wanted to take a big gaming property that is considered a colossus and a giant, they could have taken they do own Minecraft. They could have made that exclusive and they didn't, you know, and they did say, I think it was actually Microsoft's president, if I'm not mistaken, did say a couple of months ago that they're viewing this as like another Minecraft acquisition. So I don't think to ultimately put a bow on this conversation, because I'm honestly tired of talking about it. I honestly wish this wasn't the topic we were talking about today, but man, it's been a barren desert out here. I'm also eager for something to happen, interesting to happen as well, because it's just so slow. But to put a bow on this, I'm just simply going to say I don't think Call of Duty is going to go anywhere. If it did, I would be very interested to see how Sony would react and what they would do. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Call of Duty is going to stay on PlayStation, and that's that. KD, you're saying, I'm an hour behind the stream. I'm glad you're loving God of War 1. The combat in the original trilogy was more sophisticated and overall better than God of War 2018. More sophisticated, you say? Interesting. That tells me that there's maybe a lot more to it than what I realize. Because it does feel pretty simple. Not in a bad way, but like, I'm only a couple hours in. But I did say I was surprised that you could unlock more moves, and so maybe that's what you're referring to. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, man. Okay, next up, let me see. What else can we do? So I'm going to be real with you guys right now. I don't have much else to talk about. Like, we have the Square Enix potential acquisition. I wrote that down as a topic. I'm not sure how interested you guys are in that right now, because we did talk about it quite a bit, and I don't know. What do you think? Is that a topic worth kind of diving into, or maybe not? I don't know. I want to gauge the chat right now. Do you think the August showcase or September? What about Gamescom? So that's the thing. Like, when it comes to a PlayStation showcase, I don't feel comfortable saying, oh, I think it could be this month, or I think it could be September, because I don't know, man. I don't know. Every time I think I have my finger on the pulse of what Sony's going to do, I'm usually completely wrong. So I don't want to say that Sony's going to do a showcase in September. Definitely, I think they will, because then they probably won't. For Gamescom, I don't know. Sony did say they're not going to be there, so I would assume that we're not going to see anything from like them or their partners. Maybe. I'll stream Gamescom though. So I'm going to talk very briefly about Sony acquiring Square Enix. And I want to keep it brief mainly because I just there's not a whole lot more to say, but one thing I do want to kind of clarify with my last video talking about this, I framed the video as in like, it's more likely that Sony will acquire them now, because Square Enix, they're now making it so that companies such as Sony, but others as well, can now invest into their individual studios. But an analyst did say that, or I think it was an analyst, but I think it's generally agreed upon that the moves that Square Enix is making in general make them just look more appealing for an overall buyout, an overall acquisition, even though they are going to allow individual studios to invest into, individual publishers to invest into individual studios. This could also potentially open the door for, if Sony were to come in and be like, Square, what do you think about us just acquiring you entirely for this with this offer that we're putting on the table? I mean, that's a possibility at any time, but you have to imagine it's certainly more plausible. Certainly more plausible when Square is actively trimming the fat and trying to, I guess, refine themselves, right? 007 Angelo, you're saying Sony keeps Final Fantasy VII Remake multi-platform. We good. And you know what? That's actually something I did want to mention as well. I'm going to tell you why I don't know that I care too much about Sony acquiring Square Enix. I don't think anything would change. I think if the only thing that would potentially change is that future games that were in development at Square Enix, or games that are currently in development that are meant to release a couple years down the line, if Sony were to acquire them as a whole, I think the only thing that would change is certain games just wouldn't ever release on Xbox specifically. I think we have to take a good look at Bungie and realize that, you know, really quick, I see somebody saying, yo, MBG, someone is impersonating you on Telegram. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that bullshit, but that's exactly what it is. It's bullshit. So listen, if you see, it sucks because I wish I could, I'll try to maybe mention a video if it still becomes a prevalent issue. But if you ever see me asking you to click a link in my comments and I'm not giving anything away. These are scammers. All right. I try my best to keep them out of my comment section, but sometimes they slip through. Just know that I'm not giving anything away. I'm not doing anything like that. They're impersonators and they're just trying to scam you. Don't fall for it. All right. But yeah, I think that we have to just take a good look at the Bungie acquisition and really highlight the fact that I think Sony is kind of setting a precedent here where for any big acquisitions that we get from Sony in the future, if they're a multi-platform entity, I think they're going to remain that way. And that's why I think things mostly wouldn't change. I know a lot of Nintendo fans get really nervous about the idea of Sony acquiring all of Square Enix because Square Enix has quite a few different titles on Switch. I don't think that would change. I don't. I think that we are in a day and age now with Sony where if Sony acquires an individual studio, I could see them tasking that studio with, you're now going to make exclusive PlayStation games. But when you talk about buying an entity or a bigger studio that has a massive multi-platform presence, a publisher, I think as we go further into these acquisitions, a lot of people are basically saying this sucks. We don't like to see the consolidation. We don't like to see these big companies owning just a few big companies owning everything. I agree with that, but this is what's happening, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I think maybe the silver lining potentially is that I think these companies are becoming a little bit more open to remaining multi-platform. I do. I think that's, at least for the bigger acquisitions. I mean, that could change, obviously. I don't know that for sure, but I just kind of get that sense that if Sony were to acquire Square Enix, I really don't think much would change. I think the acquisition of Square Enix would just essentially ensure that Final Fantasy is PlayStation and PC at times, but definitely not Xbox. And I think that's really what that would do. And if you think about it, it's kind of like you could kind of understand why Sony wouldn't even want to pursue that right now, or they don't feel pressured to, because they kind of already have that. So what I could see happening is Sony investing heavily in some of Square Enix's individual studios, specifically those that develop Final Fantasy. So an Arcane Blitzer, you're saying, MBG, I read a while back that Sony invested in the development of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is why it's still a PlayStation exclusive, and I can see why, as OG Final Fantasy VII was a PS1 exclusive and a system seller. And see, that's what I mean. I think that Square Enix basically opening up the door here, saying, go ahead, invest. What it could also do, it could make Sony more aggressive than they already are. I think the last thing that Sony would want is to see a company like Tencent or Nexon start to invest in these studios that develop Final Fantasy. I don't think Sony would be okay with that. And you could also argue that maybe Square Enix opening the door to allowing other companies to kind of, claim a stake if Sony did have any thought of trying to acquire Square Enix so they don't have to worry about losing things, this might be what does it. It might be what does it. Maybe not, but it's all speculation, and that's all we can do right now. We have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, frankly. So, and that's pretty much it for that topic. I really don't have much else to say about it. Next up, I want to talk about Sony and NFTs for a moment here. I might make a separate video for this. I'm not sure. Where is it at? But this is something we might want to pay attention to. I came across an article from PlayStation Lifestyle, and the title reads, "Does this Evo survey mean Sony really is considering PlayStation NFTs?" Sony caught some flack a few weeks ago when it announced PlayStation Stars, a digital collectible program that sounded suspiciously like NFTs. However, the company confirmed that it would not be using any blockchain tech with Stars and that they wouldn't be tradable. However, a survey question at Evo 2022 makes it seem like Sony or someone else has NFT ambitions elsewhere. Sony has explicitly stated that PlayStation Stars won't use NFTs or blockchain and that the digital collectibles won't be tradable or sellable. However, despite the NFT market imploding over the last few months, they're too lucrative of a concept for companies to ignore. PS Stars might be safe. However, a survey at Evo 2022, given as part of a quest to win a free shirt, may mean that the company is looking elsewhere to implement NFTs. It reads, "What do you collect most? Which of the following NFT/digital collectibles would you most be interested in purchasing?" And these were the options that anybody who was taking the survey could choose. Evo branded, favorite music artist, favorite esports player/teams, PlayStation items, favorite game characters. The article continues by saying, notably, there's no ability to decline to answer here. To proceed further, you must choose one of the 5 answers. The survey was posted on Twitter and was picked up by several prominent gaming industry insiders. Unfortunately, however, none of them knew what was going on, and they threw some random guesses in the air, which confused things further. So as of right now, this is what we know. PlayStation Stars doesn't use NFTs. Either Sony or Evo, which is jointly owned, it's a joint endeavor, is conducting marketing research for purchasable NFTs/digital collectibles. And so the article concludes by saying, we can't draw any conclusions from this information. Sony and or Endeavor could be planning a massive line of NFTs. Alternatively, it could just be a random marketing question, and the results could be filed away and never looked at again. So, yeah, I had to mention this, guys, because, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest right now. This is not what I want to be talking about. It's not what I want to be hearing. I want to hope that this has nothing really to do with PlayStation, but we do have to acknowledge that on that survey, they did ask in regards to NFTs, they did ask about PlayStation items. So I don't know, guys. The article's right. We can't jump to conclusions. But I just figured I would let you guys know. I see a lot of people asking me to talk about imminent PlayStation showcase. Guys, I don't know what you want me to say. I'm at a loss here. I don't know if I were to make that a topic. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could talk about what I would like to see, but I feel like I've already done that over and over again. I feel like I've talked a lot about what I want to see, what I hope to see, but I don't want to. The reason why I don't really want to talk about a showcase in depth is simply because tell us what you don't want to see at a showcase, like Deathloop. Oh yeah, I saw that too. Apparently there were some Kojima NFTs or potential, but it was like a mix up. What I don't want at the showcase. Okay, I could actually do that. I could do that. And I think this might be my final topic, unfortunately. Guys, there's just nothing going on. It's quite depressing. Like, I'm really hoping that things pick up soon because there's just nothing going on, man. William, you're saying, did you play a lot of the board game in the Yuffie DLC? It's really fun, and the master player is really hard to beat. Actually, I didn't. I was just focused on the story. I did play the initial round though, and it was pretty cool. What I played of it, it was pretty cool. I like that they added that to add some serious replay value there, or not replay value, but just more content. That was pretty cool. I was actually surprised they didn't have that in the main game. But what I don't want to see at a PlayStation showcase, first and foremost, I feel like this is the most important thing because I feel that we are absolutely expecting to see more PSVR 2. Now, I am excited for PSVR 2 and I'm looking forward to it, but what I don't want to see is the entire showcase focused on PSVR 2. I would be very depressed, honestly. Like if Sony was like, we're going to do our 2021 or 2022 PlayStation showcase in September and it's just going to focus on PSVR 2, I would be very upset. So that is what I don't want to see. I want to see a portion of the showcase dedicated to PSVR 2. Preferably, what I would like to have is a separate dedicated thing for PSVR 2 that's a little bit smaller, and then the bigger showcase really just focus on the PS5 and PS5 games. Because I as excited as I am for PSVR, it's not the bread and butter for me. It's not what I'm most excited to see. You know what I mean? It's not the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes are the PS5 exclusives coming from PlayStation Studios and partners. So that's something I don't want to see. Something else I don't want to see. Knowing that Sony is very much, getting heavily invested in in live service games. I don't want to see a showcase that's like bombarded with them. And I don't think we will. Like, for example, I would be okay with seeing 2, maybe even 3, maybe 3 at most, like live service games revealed by Sony. I think 3 even at one time would be pushing it a little bit. But I don't, it also depends on what these games are. For example, like something I do absolutely expect to see, well, I take that back. I'm going to take that back because I just remembered that Naughty Dog said they said they're going to talk more about it next year. I was going to say Factions and the Last of Us multiplayer game, but according to Naughty Dog, that's not happening. Although they could be mistaken, maybe not mistaken, but maybe they'll make good progress or they'll change their mind. But if I see like if SOCOM's revealed and it's a live service, totally cool with that. If they want to show Twisted Metal, I'm all for that, And if they want to tease something else that's early in development, that's fine. I want to make sure that we also get our fill of what we go to PlayStation for, right? I want to see some new single player games, man. I want to get some teases. I want to get some trailers for what are these studios working on from their partners as well. But I will say, we're probably going to see, I'm going to be honest, like I expect to see quite a few live service titles revealed. I'm not saying that they couldn't be exciting. They could be, but I do expect to see quite a few because you think Haven Studio, Deviation Games, Naughty Dog, Guerrilla, the list goes on. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima, the studio. Sucker Punch probably working on something. There's a lot. There's a lot that they got cooking behind the scenes outside of their single player. So I would like to see preferably a good blend. You also have to consider there's going to be quite a few third-party things as well. I'm going to be honest. I think when Sony announces, if they announce a showcase, our instinct, and I think you guys are going to be depressed that I'm saying this, but I think it's just for the best. I do. And I'll reiterate this if it is announced. I'm only going to speak for me. All right. I'm not speaking for you. My instinct every time a showcase gets announced is I go off the fucking deep end. You know me. I go nuts. Like I'm assuming my wildest dreams are gonna come true. And granted, last year I did get the announcement of an Insomniac Wolverine game, which that is a dream announcement. So in a way, I was kind of glad I didn't lower my expectations because that actually surpassed. Like I did not expect that. So what I'm saying is this: going into a PlayStation showcase this year, if we get one, I'm gonna try my best to just be like reasonable about it, where I know there's going to be Deathloop DLC. Okay, I'm kidding. I hope there isn't, but I know there's going to be like some third-party stuff. There's going to be some indie stuff, and I'm not going to be sitting there the entire showcase being like, yes, like every announcement, and that's okay. But I am going to be hopeful that, as I say, there's at least one or two really good, solid, exciting announcements and surprises that maybe catch us off guard. But I feel like it's also kind of what Sony does, where I feel like we go so long, right? I feel like we go so long in between Sony showcases sometimes that we really do, like, I know what you guys want. You guys want the same thing I want. I want an hour and a half long of just nothing but, not nothing, but like 80% exclusives, PlayStation Studios, partners, and very few third party, very few indie. Like that's what we want. We want the big stuff, That's what I want. But I don't know that that's what we're going to get. Banger after banger. I know it can't always be that way. But that's what I would want. But I do miss that from Sony, Like that's the thing, is Sony does know how to drop the bombs, man. They do. And they even last year, even though last year's showcase was relatively tame in terms of length and the volume of games they had to show, it was like God of War, Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, back to back to back. I mean, that was a pretty big bomb, And I would like to see something similar like that again, but maybe just with a little bit more this time, because I still got the sense after last year's showcase, I'm like, dude, it really feels like they're hiding shit at this point. Like they're purposely hiding stuff, like they could show it, they could announce it, but they're holding on to it. And I hope I'm right about that. But when you look at how many job listings, dude, Fire Sprite has like 5 or 6 PlayStation games in development, and we have yet to see a single one announced. Well, actually, we have one announced. That's Horizon Call of the Mountain, but still, that leaves like 4 other projects minimum that they're working on, So it's like, that's just one studio. Can't help but wonder what else is being worked on behind the scenes that we're just not aware of yet. So I guess that's all I can really say about a showcase. I did see a couple people mention that Special Nick, he like posted on Twitter that he heard it was August. And like, look, I read that tweet, and was he referring? I don't think he was referring to a showcase. He was just saying a show. Like, again, he could be talking about a state of play. He could be talking about a God of War state of play. He could be talking about a showcase, but all I can think at this point to myself is, hey man, you have to imagine Sony's working on something, and we could hear about it next week. We could hear about it 2 weeks into September. I expect anything. All I know is right now, and I don't mean to sound like whiny. I'm going to sound a little bit whiny right now, but I can't help it because it's just genuinely how I feel right now. I am like, dude, is it just me? Or does it feel like things are like it's just tumbleweeds right now? Right? Like it just feels like I'm looking at tumbleweeds going by, waiting for something, anything at all to happen. Cause I am just so, it's weird because we've had like slow time, and I don't mean that just with PlayStation. I mean in general, like in gaming. it's dead right now. And I'm not saying that that doesn't mean you can't work on your backlog or that there isn't anything to play at all. I'm not making it sound like that, but it's just like in terms of just like things happen, like things are not happening right now. It feels like things are at a complete standstill. And I want to be optimistic and say it's the calm before the storm. You know? It's the calm before the storm, because when it gets... Hassan, where are you hiding? Yo, you know what would be so funny? Just to bring this... Because I had this thought the other day. Because occasionally, like, people still will bring that up. How funny would it be if at the next PlayStation event, Kojima comes up and our wildest dreams come true, and he's like, I actually have been working on Silent Hill. Surprise. And that's it, right? And it's like the game's announced, gets an awesome trailer, people are hyped, and like the game like releases 2 years from now, and Kojima's like doing a round of interviews. You know how it is when games release. The creators like to do their interviews to promote the game. And somebody like mentions Abandoned and Blue Box, and he's just like, oh yeah, that was us. Like just super casual, like, yeah, that was us. We were just messing with people. Could you imagine? Like, could you imagine? You couldn't even be mad because the game's already out and people are already playing it. That would be the greatest thing ever. It would be the funniest thing ever in gaming. That's not going to happen, of course, but so he's like, just stop. Don't worry, man. There's no I'm not going into that zone. Relax, guys. However, I will say, in all seriousness, I knew there was something. I forgot to bring up. Speaking of Kojima, I'm annoyed because I meant to add this into a video and I totally forgot. And I'm telling you, this went completely under the radar. And this is not like fantasy land here. All right, don't worry. But Kojima, there you go. Somebody got it in the chat. I was waiting to see if somebody in the chat would get it. Isabella says, MBG, I don't know if you saw, but Kojima's editing something. Yes, he is. Kojima's editing a trailer for something. Kojima only ever tweets out he's on his editing machine when he's working on something. Last year, he did it, I think, once or twice, saying, I'm working on my editing machine, and it was for Death Stranding trailers. Now, when he was doing that, he kept telling us it's for Death Stranding, so he made it clear. This time, could it be the Xbox game? It could be. That's the thing, is like, I'm going to be honest with you guys right now. Gamescom is coming up. Sony's not going to be there. I believe Xbox will be there. I know some of you guys don't want to hear that. Like, I know some of you guys really don't want to hear that. Oh, a new Kojima trailer, and it's going to be, well, hey, even if it's for the Xbox game, I'm still super interested. And it could be. I want to believe it's for Sony though, because that's just how we roll, right? Like, we see Kojima editing. I mean, it's kind of instilled within us. Like, we want to believe it's for something PlayStation related. Gamescom is, I think, August 23rd or 7th. Oh, I heard rumors too, and I don't know if it's true. Apparently, this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is going to be announced at Gamescom, which, yo, I'm not saying I believe it, but oh my God, I'll hit the fucking roof if it's announced and it looks good. I'm going to hit the roof that day. But it's just a rumor. August 24th through 28th. Okay. Death Stranding 2? Could be. Zanarkand Blitzer, you're saying, MBG, here's our mod pitch for Jay Shako and Zanarkhan Blitzer will be the special division of your mod team that deals with spoilers. Our specialty is Final Fantasy and Marvel when you're ready, MBG. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we could maybe do that. We could do that. I'll think about it. You know, I did see that a few members of mine were asking for a Discord, and I'm not saying. I am saying. I've already said it. I'm probably gonna bring out a Discord for my members. So I'm also thinking about offering another membership tier. I told myself I wasn't going to talk about this. I was just going to do it, but whatever, you know, you guys are still here hanging with me. So I was going to offer another membership tier, a cheaper one. And I also wanted to, now I'm not saying that the Discord would be in the cheapest tier, but I'm just like, I'm looking to make some moves with my memberships is what I'm trying to say. But I know that my members have been hoping for a Discord, so that might be something I might bring out. So hopefully look forward to that. I don't know when exactly. Like, I'm hoping soon. So MBG wants to create an army. Yeah, we'll see what we can do with that. Right now I'm still kind of like in the process of planning out how exactly I'm going to do it, like what I want at certain tiers and so on and so forth. But that's something I'm hoping to have out relatively soon. So when is MBG going to take on Wise in Final Fantasy VII Remake? MBG wants you in list now. But honestly, guys, I think that's it, man. I don't have really anything else to talk about. This has been one of the slowest weeks, it feels like, of the year. And I hope it's the calm before the storm, because you know, I'm trying my best, you know, to keep the content flowing and keep it as relevant as I can. Like I said, I do have my Final Fantasy VII review out right now. It's out for members, but some point soon that will be released for everybody. And yeah, that's it, guys. That's all I have for you in this episode. I know some people are like, I want a 4.5 hour episode, but I can't. You know, I can't. At this point, I'm just Jay Shako, you're saying, do not make Discord for members only. Bad move. If you do Discord, it needs to be open to everyone to join, and you should be run by yourself and myself if you'd wish. Like I said, I have experience in modding in Discord. Well, think about it. I mean, that's the thing is like, is that how spoiled my, you're spoiled, waved Max. Damn, that's a short podcast, bro. It's 3 hours. But you know what? I guess when you take into account that I frequently do like 4 and 4.5 hour podcasts, yeah, I could see that. I don't know though. That's the thing is like, for my, like, I'm trying to really add meaningful perks to my membership, because those of you who've been members for like the past year, you guys have just been doing it simply just to support me, you know, and to get a shout out and to be in the credits roll. And I always felt like, you know, I should probably try to do more. Also, obviously, to encourage people to become members. You know, that's obviously part of it. I would like more people to become channel members, but it's also about trying to add something that can really feel meaningful. I think I got a like a recommendation. Somebody was like, dude, you should try to do you should try to do like some member only streams just to chat for a little bit. And, maybe that's something I can look into. I don't want to, stretch myself too thin here, but it's a process and I'm looking into it, and I'm hoping I can add more value to my memberships. So my current members feel as though they're really getting the best deal they can, and also to encourage other people to become channel members as well. So, but yeah, that does it, guys. That's Press X Podcast episode 120. I mean, I like to think that it was still a relatively decent episode given the circumstances, given that there's just not much going on. So I hope you did enjoy it. And before you head out, guys, do me a favor. Please hit that like button for me. And I will try to keep the content flowing here on the channel as best I can. And here's hoping that this same time next week, we'll have hopefully some more exciting things to talk about. But yeah, shout out to my members. And thank you to everybody who donated a super chat. Thank you to everybody who continues to support what I do here on the channel. But I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to just chill for the day, play some games, and that's it. Until the next, well, I was going to say until the next episode, but I'll definitely talk to you before that. So until next time, guys, take care.